Okay. Hi.
Yo. Okay, I'm gonna kill the music too. Okay, can you guys hear us? Paula, you want to say something?
Oh, blah.
Okay.
Hello.
How are the
Those are
volumes?
words. Okay, hang on. I'm kind of like a little off-centered here. Let me pull this a little bit.
We did post the socials, yes.
Yes.
We did do that.
I post the socials. Make sure everybody hanging out with us, please hit the likey button. Hit the
Oh
little
yeah, that's
thumbs
right.
up.
That's something
'Cause
we
we're
have to
on
like
YouTube.
mention because we're on YouTube. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot. Yo,
Wait. Did you say we're live? Okay, you did put the like. Okay, I was like, wait.
okay. This is not the first time I've done this. Let's cut me some slack here. Yes, I didn't know that we had to like request for a day before, but like
I didn't know that was a thing either. And then I
Yeah, I had
told
no
Edo,
idea.
and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing." And I was like, "What?
yeah,
How
so
did Edo know this?"
apparently you have to like kick off the stream process for it to sign you up or like register you, and then you have to wait 24 hours after that registration before you can stream on YouTube. I had no idea. But yo, we got all the homies in here.
Yeah, look at this.
So many
We got
awesome
Gim
people.
Gim, we got Mooney, we got Peach, we got Meech. Oh, did everybody see like the little intro art? That was all Meech. Meech got that done in like crazy quick time.
Yeah, Cass is here, Kane is here, Dark is
Cass,
here,
hi.
Peach is here, Crowned is here, I'm pretty sure.
Only if you acknowledge Gar. That's gotta be Scooty.
Huh?
Oathkeeper. Is that Scoot?
I think that's Crowned.
Oh, is that Crowned?
Yeah, because
okay.
They also said, I'm an unidentifying troll that subscribes to your Twitch. Can you guess who I am? I'm like 98% sure that's Crowned.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Wait,
yeah.
Polly's echo? Hold on.
They're not saying it's Crowned.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to have to turn you down a little bit. Sounds like you're echoing.
Oh, am I too loud? I'm sorry.
How is she now?
Polly ASMR time.
Oh, God, please no.
I was trying to speak softly, but it just comes out weird.
Polly has a reverb. Oh, no.
Imagine using your Twitch name as your YouTube name. At least we know who you are.
I'm trying to make sure I turn your volume down, but like not too much. Yeah. Okay, can you talk again, Polly?
Okay. So, hi. Welcome to our first ever YouTube stream together. KJ's done YouTube streams, but I haven't at all.
I have. Only one, though. How is Polly sounding now? Is she still echoey?
Am I better? Am I worse? Do I talk louder or softer?
Still reverb. Oh, no.
Still reverb.
Okay, let me do this way. Ralph, welcome in.
With Zencaster, maybe? Also, hi, Ralph. Be careful. Dark might be good, Ralph.
Does Polly have a reverb filter on? No, I think she's just getting picked up by my microphone.
I don't have audio in my... I shouldn't have audio in my OBS. No, I don't think so.
I don't know how you're being picked up. I can barely hear you. Like, can't tell me. Ralph, Dark is a mod. Yes, he can.
Dark does have powers.
Oh, there goes Ralph. there goes Ralph. Wait, can y'all still hear Polly twice?
Such a lovely face. Woo.
Is that still
at the Hotel California? Okay, Cass told me to sing, so I sang.
Poor Ralph.
Wait, you can time out people on YouTube? Okay, that's
Wait,
fine.
you don't know how to bring him back? Oh no, wait.
Wait, Dark, you used powers and now you don't know how to do it. Alright, rip.
Oh no.
He
R.I.P. Ralph.
Yeah, really. Am I still double? Am I good now? I'm on mobile. Oh, rip. Can a mod not on mobile see if they can
Polly's
fix
still
Ralph?
reverbed. I don't understand. I'm genuinely confused. I can barely
Okay.
hear Polly.
Okay. So let's troubleshoot. Where else could audio be coming from? So I'm coming through the Zencaster, right?
So wait, can you guys hear her now? Is she even audible? Talk, Polly.
Can you actually hear me? Wait, I'm gonna unmute the. Hello.
Yo, Megan, welcome in. Yeah, I can't hear Polly at all. Very quiet. She's audible. Okay. So that's she's super quiet. Okay. Hold on. Let me do this. I'm going to
All
turn
right.
you
Also,
back
thank you
up.
for like helping us troubleshoot everybody.
Yeah. No, this is good. Can you talk again, Polly?
Hotel California.
Okay.
Such a
Can
lovely
is she
place.
still how does she sound now?
Can you hear me? Am I better? Am I worse?
I turned my mic down, so hopefully it's picking up less.
Okay.
Yeah, just talk normal.
Just talk normal, Polly. Okay. Hello. Hello. Hi, Cass. Hi, Anno. Hi, Meech. Hi, Megan.
That should have fixed it.
Hi, Ralph. Even though you're timed out and you can't actually say anything. Does everybody want to see my
Still
ducky?
reverby. Hold on. I got to hear this. Polly, can you talk?
Yes, I can talk. I can talk very well. I am Polly. I am Polly Moon. I talk, talk, talk. I am talking and I'm talking and I'm talking and I'm talking and I'm talking. There's a peach and a dark and a meat. You like that? It's pink. Look at that cute ducky. It's like a whole like water bottle thingy.
Oh yeah, you are kind of reverby. I don't know why though. Okay, hold on. Keep
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to keep talking while KJ troubleshoots, and then once we troubleshoot things, we'll get going. So, hi, everybody coming in. I'm probably a little echoey. I apologize while I keep talking so KJ can fix the problem. Just remember this is a YouTube streamies. So if you hit the little like button while we're live, the little thumbs up, it actually helps us reach other people that might actually be interested in seeing the stream. So make sure you hit the little thumbs up if you're here and saying hi with us. It just helps that like a little bit extra. Now it actually seems better, says Peach. Yeah, KJ's muted right now because he's trying to hear me and see why I'm echoey and why it's coming through that way. Okay, so now I'm KJ's mic is muted and you're fine. Okay, so it has to do so with something with KJ's mic. So he's gonna figure that out and put his
Yeah, my
thinking
mic is
face on.
somehow picking you up and I don't know how.
That's so weird.
It happens inconsistently
It
when we do
does, and
these.
like sometimes we'll do these things, and it's never an issue, and then that one time it becomes an issue, and it's like that's why I always have like headphones in because like I can't play through speakers because I'm always worried that that's gonna happen.
Yo, Matt, welcome in.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, my microphone on the OBS side is not picking you up at all. Like I'm not seeing the mic move when you talk, yet somehow it's still picking you up.
Do you have like little settings on your mic? Like
No, I
no,
have an app that
because
will.
okay, because I have like little settings, and if I play around with those, they end up being better or worse. So I just didn't know if your mic had that. Mm.
Yo, Nerdcode, welcome in. Okay, talk again,
Nerdco,
Polly.
thanks for coming in. All right, I'm talking. Hi, Cass. Thank you for helping us troubleshoot. Matt, we're troubleshooting audio right now. This is our first YouTube streamies, and apparently I'm echoing.
How do we sound, or how does she sound now?
Also, YouTube's emotes are wild. Like,
YouTube's
what the
emotes
heck?
are weird as hell.
Polly is way quiet for me, says Gim Gim.
Okay, how about now?
How about now? We doing now? No reverb, though. Cass says, so Gim Gim says quiet, but no reverb. Sounds good on my side. Sounds good, says Peach. So I
Okay.
think we're
Still
good.
no
KJ's louder,
reverb.
but Polly isn't reverbing, says Eno.
Okay. Let me turn this back up a little bit.
Okay.
And talk, Polly.
I am talking. There's a peach and a Matt and a big cast world and an Eno and a Gim Gim and a nerd code. Woo!
Okay. Hopefully she's louder and there's still no reverb.
And there's a Ralph, but Ralph won't be able to speak for another couple minutes, I think.
I was gonna say, how long is Ralph timed out for? I don't even know.
300 seconds, whatever that week works out to.
Oh, great. Okay.
Oh, great! You said that in like such a positive way. Poor Ralph.
Okay, so
You're
I
just
think
like,
you're
"Oh,
good.
great,
I
you
think
said that."
we're good.
Okay, now you can all smash the like button now that we figured it out, because now it's worth the like, right?
Hopefully. I'm
Yeah,
waiting for
YouTube is
somebody to
so-
confirm that they can hear you and you're not reverby.
Okay.
Seems like recent
Are those
balance of values.
arcade-
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Are
so
those
I just
arcade
added a
cabinets?
gate to
And
my
Polly,
mic.
do you have an Esper for an icon? Looks like KJ has a slick hat. Yes, yeah. I made these pixel arcade like things for our podcast, and the little Magicite above me is from Final Fantasy VI, and then I put fedoras above him because
Of course she did. She didn't put birthday hats above hers because why not?
No.
I'm gonna
Birthday hats are too complicated for pixel sprites.
I'm gonna get somebody to redesign this and make sure that it's fair.
No, this is fair. This is fair. You have a fedora in your background. I don't have a birthday hat.
You have a
background mine.
birthday. You definitely have a birthday hat closer to you than you do Magicite.
How do you know?
Because I can
Wait.
literally see the candle from the birthday hat.
No, that's actually the ear from the Pikachu hat.
Oh, it looks like one of the candles.
It does look like the candle, but no, it's
Oh my
the
God.
Pikachu hat.
Matt, can that be the emote? Can you make me a birthday hat pixel sprite?
Matt,
Yes.
don't make me
that's
time you out too. How do I
the
time? No, I
emote-
don't want to actually do
The
that.
emote that yes, that'll be it.
Oh, that's right. Oh no, Matt owes you an evil. Don't do that. Don't use your powers for evil.
It's gonna be a birthday hat, and I'm gonna slap it right over the Magicite.
No.
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so
it's not
good.
fair. You haven't complained about it for 11 episodes. Why is now the time you complain?
Because I just thought about it. It wasn't brought to my attention.
Thanks a lot, Nerd Code.
Okay. So, welcome
Magicite
everybody to
can
our first
wear
YouTube
hats
stream. Sorry about the technical difficulties and all that jazz. But we are here. We are going to be talking about Trails in the Sky, first chapter. This game, we will say, like, at first we're not going to get into many spoilers, but this game is like spoiler central for the next 2 games. So if you do plan on playing, we will give like a heads up saying like, hey, this is the part that's going to be spoiled. But just to let you know, that's kind of how we're going to run this. So
Yeah. We'll make it very clear when we're talking about spoily stuff. For the first while, we talk about other aspects of the game that you would learn if you started playing like the first one and everything. This episode is only going to cover the first game just because we're going to do two episodes because I'm not quite done yet. I'm getting close though. I think I'm almost at the end of chapter 6 for the second game, so I feel like I'm getting pretty close.
okay, cool. So
Yeah.
we're gonna kick off the episode and actually start recording because we do have this split. We do have this going out to the all of the different podcast sites and things, so like Spotify and Google and all of that. Just
Yeah,
Turnbased Tangents,
and we
you'll
both
find
had a
us.
conversation about it, and we thought like, so with the podcast, we put it on audio services like Spotify, Amazon, Google, but then when we put it on video, we actually put it on YouTube. So this is the YouTube channel here that you're all hanging out with, and we both sort of had a conversation and thought maybe we should be actually streaming to YouTube now that KJ's did his one stream and figured out how to stream to YouTube.
It's
Figured,
not that bad, I promise you. I'm gonna show
doesn't
you
sound
how to
too
do
bad.
it so that I don't have to host them all.
Yeah, you're gonna have to walk me through it,
Yeah, it's not too bad.
but but yeah, so we're gonna be doing our podcast episodes on YouTube. So you definitely want to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you want to catch more episodes for us, and while we're live, if you want to hit the little thumbs up button, it helps us as we continue on the podcast. And that'll be the last time I mention that because we're gonna start here momentarily. So
Okay, so I'm gonna push the button. 3, 2, 1, and here we are. Okay, so welcome everybody to the next episode of Turn-Based Tangents. We are going to be covering Trails in the Sky first chapter. I am KJ.
I'm Polly.
There we go.
I had a
was
brain
like,
fart
please,
because I was moving my
please take
Discord
the
thing
cue.
over.
And yeah, so we played this game. It's funny. We actually started this game in April. So we had a bunch of different life things happen. Both of us did, which resulted in, funny enough, me finishing the game super quick because I had a bunch of time, and
Yeah.
Holly was like doing conventions and stuff. So we kind of stretched this out a bit. And we will be covering second chapter very soon as well. So
Yeah.
for anybody that doesn't know, first chapter and second chapter are very much continuous. Like the end of first chapter leads directly into the start of second chapter. So that is something I think we should just keep in mind, especially anybody that wants to play the series. We definitely want to make sure that you know that, so that way if you are watching this and you haven't played this game, you can understand that it might spoil some stuff for second chapter as well. So
Yeah. And we're gonna cover all the way up until that little bit that connects into the second chapter, and then we're gonna cover the second chapter right here on YouTube again on Tuesday, probably around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock. PM Eastern time is when we're going to cover the second episode. So, because they connect so closely together, and because we were like playing them back to back more or less, because I'm just about done. I have like 3 chapters left to go or something. So
yeah, you'll get there.
yeah. Yeah, for those of you who might not know anything about the Trail series, because hi, hello, I'm a big noob. I knew nothing going into this. They all like there is a particular order to play the games in because they all connect together. So Trails in the Sky is where you start. And that's where we've started our Trails journey, both of us. That's what first chapter is where you kind of start, and you go into second chapter, you go in Trails of the Sky third, then it's Trails 0, Azure, so on and so forth. So it's a pretty long series. There's I think 10 games now translated in English, and I think only 2 games are still left, not technically translated or not technically brought into North America.
Yeah,
So it's
I think you're right. I think it's 10 as of July. It's 10.
yeah,
With
because
Reverie
Reverie
coming
just
out.
came out.
Yep.
So that would make the 10th one.
And then I
then
think
there's
there's
still
2
two.
Kuro games that haven't been released yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. So it's a pretty long series to be committed to because again, unlike a Final Fantasy like series, for example, all the games connect into each other. So it's very much if you play later games, you might spoil the previous games. Well, you want not that you might, you will spoil
Yeah,
the previous
I was gonna say I
games.
don't think there's any like
There's no doubt about it that you're gonna spoil the previous game. So while you can jump into the middle of the series, know that it's probably better to start from the beginning like we are, to go through it. So just because you're going to be spoiling all the previous games, so if you're like, oh, I want to play the Sky series, you have already spoiled it if you're playing the future ones, right? Like Zero or Azure or Cold Steel or and that stuff. So
And I think one of the things we didn't mention, so the unfortunate piece of this is that the Sky series is actually the only games that are like the only games that didn't really get consistent ports and localizations. So like they're originally PSP games that then got ported to PC/Steam, and I think On the PSP, only Sky 1, I want to say, was released in the US. I think there's a Sky 2 for the Vita, but I'm not sure. And then Sky 3 is only localized on PC and slash Steam. So
Yeah.
I mean I have a copy right here of the Japanese copy of Sky 1, but yeah, they're of all of the games, these are the ones that are like super difficult to play just because they are only on PC.
Yeah. And if you're like us, you can see in our backgrounds, both of us, we both like collecting physical copies. It's kind of difficult to do that with the Sky series, as KJ said, because of the localization issues. But what KJ went out and done was that he enjoyed them so much, he went and bought the Japanese copies so that he could have physical copies of it, and have a set. Because that was the other thing, is that like even if he could find the Vita version of 2, because I think you're right, I think there is a Vita version of 2, it's also really expensive, I believe. I do
I mean,
remember
yeah.
seeing
So is Sky 1 for like the English version of Sky 1 for PSP is like 100 to 150 bucks.
Yeah. So they're pretty expensive to have them, and then you can't have 3. So you would not have the
Mhm.
physical. You would not be able to get a physical copy of 3 unless you got the Japanese version. So KJ did the way of like we both got them on Steam. He's been playing it on Steam Deck, and I've been playing it on Steam Link, I guess
Mhm.
technically,
Yep.
where it just casts to my TV. And then he just got the physical copy. So of the
Yeah. These
Japanese
are the
versions.
and it's kind of unfortunate because like these are the only ones that aren't really localized and available elsewhere. I think the like Zero and Azure um recently got localized, so they're on Steam. They're also on Switch and on PlayStation. Um, the Cold Steel games, at least Cold Steel 3 and 4, I know are on both PlayStation as well as Steam and Switch. And then I think so. Cold Steel 1 and 2, I know there's Japanese versions on the Switch, but they're available on I want to say PS3, PS4, and Steam. So.
Yeah, they're definitely on PS4,
And
'cause
I
I
know they're on
have
PS3 as well, or at least I know Cold Steel 1 is on PS3.
yeah, I have Cold Steel 1 for PlayStation 4, and I'm gonna collect the whole Cold Steel series on probably the PlayStation 4, 1 to 4, just because I was like, "I'm just gonna have them match."
I wanted to get everything handheld, so I have Sky
Yeah.
1 through 3 on PSP, and then I'm gonna get the Japanese copies of 1 and 2, and I have everything else on Switch.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so you can get and that's why a lot of there I've found, even when I talk to people who've played Trails, some of them even skip the Sky series just because of how inaccessible they are. Where they wanted it like on handhelds or stuff like that, and they realized you couldn't get the third and so on. So they'd start with Zero, or they start with Azure, or I know people who start with Cold Steel who like skipped all of them and
A
just went
bunch of
right into
people,
Cold Steel.
I think a bunch of people started with Cold Steel because those are the ones that were localized on consoles that like were easy to play, right? I think so.
Mhm.
For me, Sky 1 was sitting in Sky 1 was sitting in my Steam wish list since like 2015, like when they basically localized it.
Oh, wow.
I knew that there were a lot of games and I just never wanted to really jump into them. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
intimidating. It is intimidating, especially because, like, they get longer as you go pretty well.
that's right. Cold Steel was also on the Vita. At least Cold Steel 1 was on the Vita. Um, but yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
they're definitely it's been they've been interesting games for sure. We're gonna dive into Sky 1 and talk about this, and yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah,
So,
and
do you want to
and
kick
I
us
I hope
off?
one day if, like, we could get, like, just a pack of, like, the Trail series, and it's just this big
I don't
box
think
set.
they'll I don't know if they'll do that.
They'll
The
never
thing
do
is
that, but
the only company that does that is Square, and that's because they're trying to milk everybody for all the money they can.
this is, like, the one time I wish they would milk us. Wait, phrasing.
I wasn't gonna
It's
I
like
wasn't gonna say anything. I was
I
gonna say
was just
Polly, take it
well
away, talk about the art style and OST. That's what I was gonna do. So yeah, let's
Like the one time I want a big giant pack like the Kingdom Hearts pack like this year, but like Trails. Like give me something that. Yeah. So yeah, let's just hop into talking about the let's start hop into talking about the art style of the game. So this game is actually really interesting. So it is pixel, but it's like how do I explain it? They're like I forget how I was looking into how they did it, and I think it was something along the lines where they're like 3D models ish pixeled or like
hmm,
hand painted or something, or like they're like really smoothed out pixels kind of graphics. And I actually thought it was really cool because they stand out very unique. So like if you look at pixel games or if you look at even just like 3D chibi RPG games where they're more chibi and stuff,
hmm.
they're like Trails stands out. Like Trails in the Sky stands out. You look at that and you go, okay, that's Trails game. Yeah, I think it's like it's a special form of like pixel where it almost looks 3D because it's very smoothed.
Okay.
So like it's very smoothed out and
I
I think
understand the
it's like
words you're saying, but I couldn't tell you what it's called.
yeah, it's like it's
You're
like
the
a 2 point.
artist.
Yeah, Meech chat right now is got it right. It's like a 2.5D. It's kind of like what Octopath Traveler did, but less with Octopath Traveler keeping the pixel look,
Yeah,
like
it's
that
definitely more.
very
It's like they lean more towards the 3D feel, if that makes
exactly.
sense. But
Yeah, which I
I,
think it adds to the charm of it. Like
it does, and
I
I think it gives it that like. I mean, I feel like a lot of PSP games, or I can't say a lot, but I feel like that was kind of the PSP game thing, if that makes sense. Like I feel like that
yeah.
definitely it feels like graphically a PSP game, even though it looks a lot better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was really interesting because it definitely gave that PSP vibe to me of like what other PSP games were when they were launched, but it looks almost like too good to be on PSP sometimes. Like
Hmm.
it's just done really really well for the hardware that they built it for originally. And like even when they're running their hair kind of moves and stuff. So like and then you're kind of like running around the map and like the little monsters move and like the little trees sway and like so they really thought out except for of course the PSP was very limited technology wise, so it's not like they could do anything too crazy with it. And you'll see in later series like Cold Steel, for example, they definitely go into the more 3D direction of what other anime RPG kind of looking games go into. And I
Hmm.
think that's what really attracted me originally to because I play tested Azure, and that style's the same as what's in Trails in the Sky series, and that's what really attracted to me to it because I was like, this is really cute. They're really like chibi. How they like shade everything is just really like eye popping. Like the character stands out from the background really nice. But like the background is all like really detailed and like you could see like the little carvings on the little rock faces of the buildings, and like
Hmm.
they really put their heart into it despite being so limited by the PSP as a technology, right? So which just it's just really charming and it's just really visually appealing, and like all your little party members follow behind you, which I think is really cool because so many JRPG games don't do that. Like they have like everybody go inside, especially older JRPG games, especially ones on older technology. They have like everybody kind of go inside each other to like reduce the frame rate, and it just like it's so common. You'll see that in like Final Fantasy games and stuff like that, right? So and Legend of Dragoon and so on and so forth. But with Trails, your whole party hangs out behind you, which was really charming until we start talking about the battle system.
I was gonna say it was awful. I hate it. I hate it so much.
But like visually,
I
we're
would
talking
much rather my
visually.
party just like warp inside of the main character because the clipping of the enemies getting surprise attacks. Oh my goodness. Luckily in
Well,
later games you can turn that off or like you don't even have the characters following you. But oh my goodness, that drove me nuts. That drives me nuts. I
yeah, we'll
don't
talk
like
a
it.
little bit more about with gameplay with that, but like
Yeah.
visually, I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool. If they didn't have it, where like when you were running around, like back or like the little monsters could actually hit your behind
Mhm.
party member and trigger a fight. If they didn't have that, it wouldn't have been frustrating at all. But it was just a very charming sort of um, adjustment, even though like again it was on the PSP, it was limited. So, but it was still really nice to have your whole party like hanging out behind you and yeah, I really enjoyed it. What do you think about the OST and the music?
One thing I wanted to I'm gonna jump around just a little bit. Um, because I think your point
We never
about
do
all
that
of
here.
never. Well, I mean, I'm still kind of staying on topic. It's just like the next thing. We're fine. One thing I think the attention to detail and everything in the art really did, that kind of made me think that because they put so much into the art and everything, that's probably why there was very limited voice acting, like from a budget
Mm,
perspective, because that
yeah.
was one thing that I think really was kind of frustrating, was that the game is very wordy and there's
Yes.
no voice acting. So I get that
Yep.
that's a like sort of a product of its time, because I think what 2004, like that, you weren't really getting 2004 or 2006 or something like that general time frame.
Hmm.
You weren't really
Yeah.
getting games that had a ton
Had
of
voice
voice
acting.
acting,
No.
but I still think it would have been nice. Like, I mean, I look at something, and again, this is not necessarily a fair comparison because we're talking Square Enix versus um Xseed, but like Crisis Core and um Birth by Sleep, like those games had voice acting.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
and
think it was
I
a
think
that seems like a money thing for sure.
it definitely feels like a money thing, especially since it looks like the Trail series, publication wise, has kind of shifted hands as well.
Mhm.
Um, and it looks like some are published under the NIS name and some are not,
Yeah,
and I
Xseed
think it
Xseed did the first Through Sky games and the first two Cold Steel games, I believe. And then
yeah,
NIS has done
the
Cold Steel
cross
3 and 4, the Crossbell games, and now Reverie.
yeah. And then Reverie, yeah. So it's kind of like mix and match, and they kind of like pass hands a few times with like the publisher and stuff. Which a lot of the times with these game studios and stuff, like publisher is one of the ones that's actually feeding the money into the company that is producing the game, and so a little bit, and so I definitely think it was one of those sad realizations that if it might have had a little bit bigger of a budget, we would have got more voice acting, because there's a little bit of voice acting in it. I don't know if they're in the original PSP ones, but they are in the Steam versions. In combat, like they do talk in combat, and when they finish combat, they talk. And it's
Mhm.
just so unfortunate that that's the only time you hear those voice actors, because they actually had this is kind of mind-blowing. They actually had a lot of voice actors that you would recognize today.
At
So,
least later on. I don't know if the
at
were
least
those were they
back then you probably wouldn't have, but now you can recognize them. As like you would have recognized Joshua's voice right away, one of the characters in the game, as Ichigo's voice from Bleach, because Bleach got really popular around the same times Trails in the Sky came out.
but are
So
those the voices that are actually in Trails in the Sky? Or are those just the who they end up being? Because like it's very much at like the only time you really get voices are at the end of battles.
yeah, so the voice actor for Ichigo is the voice of Joshua at the end of the battles.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so Orihime's voice from Bleach also, a lot of people, she's done a lot of voice work. She is Estelle in Trails in the Sky, who's the main character. One thing that mind blown me was that I'm sure a lot of people listening might know the anime Demon Slayer. Inosuke's voice actor is Agate's voice actor
Hmm.
in Trails of the Sky. So, so they do, even though they have these tiny little cameo voice lines
Mm-hmm.
in the battle systems, they are, a lot of them are notable voice actors that have gone on to do different anime and different video games and stuff like that. So I thought that like the potential is just right there. It was right at the precipice, and I definitely agree that I think it was either a budgeting issue or they spent more money into the visual side of things and less into the voice acting. But with how wordy this game is, I really wish they would have had some of it voiced act, even if they didn't do like the whole thing, but some of the key components of the game, some of the key lines and stuff like that would have been really nice because those voice actors I know like would nail those roles perfectly. Like,
Mhm.
they sounded great when you like finished battles and stuff like that and heard them talk, and you're like, okay. And it took me like it took my community like Dark and Peastone to be like, that's Orahime's voice for Bleach. And I'm like, no way. Because I didn't even recognize her. She did such a great job playing a different type of character in Trails with even just a few voice lines gave Estelle. Was that very like, like, let's go, like we can, like that kind of pumped up, like I could do it. Whereas in Bleach, she's a damsel in distress type character, right? So
Mhm.
right there, that's like she has range. And but it's like it's so minuscule voice acting that I'm like, I played the first game wanting more. Like I just wanted to hear Estelle's voice more. I wanted to hear Joshua's voice more. I wanted to hear like the different characters and key roles voices more. And I feel like that's one of the few things where I was like,
I
oh, I
I
would have been
always
fine if they cut back on the art a little bit just to give us a few more lines read to
I
us.
always appreciate this part of this part of these because I don't care at all about the voice acting as long as it's not bad and it's there. I don't like I never make the connection of like, "Oh, that's that person," or "Oh, that's that person." I'm just like, "Oh, there's somebody voice acting. I hope they got paid I hope they got paid well for this. It's good." Or this voice acting is bad. Like I would have rathered it just not be there. Like that's typically that is as far as my voice act as me caring goes for voice acting. Like I'm just I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think with how wordy this game was, I think it would have benefited from a little bit more voice acting, even just for the like key plot points. Like all the side missiony stuff or where they kind of over explain some things, maybe not, but like some of the key points, it would have been so nice. But again, product of the time, it was a PSP game. And like you said, I mean, the examples you gave, ones of that had voice acting was Square Games, which by that point Square had merged with NX and became kind of a powerhouse of JRPG
Mhm.
funding. So it's like slightly thing, but it's like it doesn't like it doesn't hurt it enough that I would call it as like a super like yeah.
No,
You know what I
that's
mean?
fair. And yeah, Peastone did mention that there are a couple of voice acting mods out there that allow voice acting, at least for this game. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
which I think
think
is great that people are like taking it upon themselves to do that because I think it'll help people jump into the series more because I think this day and age people are forgetting that back in the day they didn't have voice acting. It was less
mhm.
common in like older games, and I feel like people are being a little less forgiving for that these days. And so I think that's a fantastic thing that the fan. I think it was fan done like those mods, and I think some fans
Yeah, I
got
believe
together
so.
and did it, and I think that's fantastic. And I hope they do it for all three games, and it'll definitely help bring more people into the series. I think a little bit that are expecting that.
Yeah. Okay. So now that I got you off on a tangent about the voices,
Sorry.
I knew that was gonna happen. I knew that was gonna happen.
What? We go on
Um
tangents? Never.
I'm gonna punch my screen. Oh my goodness, you got a TGC. Um, okay, so now that you got me on, like, I'm about to go off on a tangent about the music because the OST in this
Yes.
game is fantastic. So I was playing arguably in the one of the best songs in the game at the start, and I'll turn it up again. It's like, yo, this is so good. And you only get to hear it for like a battle. But like this song hits so hard. Like especially as a boss fight, oh my goodness. It was so good. This is an absolute bang.
I get so excited when that music comes on because I know shit's about to get real. Like it's like
so good.
it's such a good like I don't even know if it's a boss battle theme, but it's more like a not a
Well, that one is a specific boss battle theme.
yeah, it's very specific to when it's played, and
Mhm.
it's so, but it's still like it hits real hard and gets you just like you're like, oh, I'm grooving to this. This is great, and it only comes around at certain specific moments, like KJ
Mhm.
said. So it's like it's one of those tracks where you're just like you're going throughout the game and you're hearing like the music, like the battle music and the regular
Which
boss
also
music, and
is the battle music. So
I
good.
think the OST, yeah, I think the OST, they did a great job with the OST. I'm not sure the composer. I'm sure P Stone is about to tell us in chat, um, but whoever composed the soundtrack for Trails really did a good job at putting just tracks that are emotional in the right spots, tracks that are like carefree, like, oh, walking
Mhm.
around this village or this town, look at this carefree music. And then you get hit with that boss music every now and then. You're like, oh, shit's going down. And you know it's going to be like an epic fight. And you're going to be like super into it. You're just like, I'm just going to listen to the song. I'm not even going to do this fight. And like they did such a good job at composing these tracks at the key moments that they needed to be, that I'm like, even without voice acting, I'm really pulled into this game by like the little things like that, like the art style, the
Mhm.
music pulls me in. And while it's unfortunate that there's some stuff that wasn't voice acted, even in the battles, having those few lines in battles and them really excited, being like, let's go, and being like, like, and characters be like, ooh, scary, and like you can hear that they're like there's a little bit there, but the music pulls you in really really well and
And that's
gives
why I don't
you
even like, for me, I was just like, oh, there's voice acting, but like the music, like you said, it just pulls you in. Like
yeah,
that
the
that battle
the
theme, like
music
you
and
said, I
sound effects, like I don't want to even excuse the sound effects too, like
mm,
there's like whacking noises and bonking noises and stepping and all these little sound effects throughout the
mhm.
game, plus the music just like really pull you in. Like there's a bird later on that you'll be interacting with, and like you can hear the
The
flap,
wings
like the flapping
flapping
of
and
its
yep.
wings, and like so they really tried to immerse you in this game with the audio of the game, and it's like all these tiny little bits where I'm just like, wow. And I can't think of a time where I didn't feel the track suited what was going on at the time. So like, and
Yeah.
there's even a part where like a harmonica is played, and it's actually a track played by a harmonica. I don't know if you've ever played a JRPG game. There's a few of them out there where they're like they pull an instrument out and they're playing the song, but it's not the instrument that the song is. It's like it's like a guitar or something and it's not a guitar being
Mhm.
played, or it's a flute and it's not a flute being played, and you're just like, what?
Yep.
Like, what? What? And whereas a harmonica is pulled out and the song being played is actually somebody, playing the harmonica for that song. And I'm like, hello? Like little things like that they just paid attention to, that they're like, okay, we really want to immerse you into these characters and this universe. I mean, they kind of went over like, you know, bent over backwards for it. And I swear that boss track is one of my favorite tracks of the game. Um, and
I love the battle theme. The battle theme, like this battle theme, this jazz like battle theme, it's so good. And it's funny because Matt had said he felt like he was in an RPG elevator. I think that's perfect, but it's just so good. Like I would vibe
it's
to
so
that so much. I'm on the third floor. Yeah, exactly. Like it's a vibe. It is great. I love it.
Yeah, and like I think it's just really unique. I think the biggest word I want to use for the soundtrack for Trails is
Hmm.
unique because it stands out to me, and that's a big thing for me with JRPGs. Like KJ and I have played a lot of JRPGs at this point, and we're still playing new ones every day. But like one thing that the Trails in the Sky FC really nails is the soundtrack is different. That battle music, never have I thought I'd groove to jazz elevator music before, but here we are. Like it was just so groovy. And so like you find yourself dancing to it. You're like, and you're like getting really into it. And it's just like the fact that like as soon as you said battle theme, I was already thinking of dancing into it before you played it for everybody.
Hmm.
Because like I know the track so well at this point because it's just so like it's good and it's memorable. And I think those are so key for a JRPG because it's so easy for the music to be like 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 a second thing, like a secondary thing, right? Where they're just like,
Hmm.
okay, we're gonna slap music in here now, and you can feel that in some of the games, as some of the other games. But in Trails, you're like, no, they put those tracks. They wanted you to be having a good time,
Hmm.
and also not a good time at the same time, depending on the track that's playing. And they just really wanted to pull you in, and I think it was done very, very well. I think the composers should be really proud of themselves, and the sound effects, even the little sound effects, like their little footsteppies, like where it changes depending on if they're walking on rock or if they're walking on gravel or if they're walking in the grass. Like I'm going little things like that. I'm like I can appreciate the attention to detail. Oh, and I just realized my floor is wet. Uh-oh.
That's not
it
good.
did it did rain a lot today. Um but yeah, so it has a very tiny little bit of voice acting, but if you really want some voice acting, as Peastone mentioned in chat, there is, at least for the first game, a fan mod that you can get to put along with it. That fans have come together to voice act the lines and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So if that's something you need, go for it. But like, I enjoyed this without it personally. I don't think it necessarily needed it.
Yeah,
The
no, I
music
agree.
and the sound effects were good enough.
Yeah.
But it still blew my mind that some voice actors, big name voice actors and actresses I know were like in this game, and I'm like, huh? You had like 4 lines.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, but at the time they weren't like we experienced that before with like Valkyrie Profile 2, for example. Like there were bigger name VAs that now would have done a lot better or something like that, but they were characters that like they were just getting their start at those, like they were taking anything that they could because they were just getting their start with those games. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like this would have been early on in a lot of their careers and stuff like
hmm.
that too. So yeah, it's probably they were just like getting their name out there more and putting it on. But like also those are really great voices because now like I heard a trailer for Bleach the other day and I was like, Joshua.
I don't
And I
understand how you
laughed
can make
because
that connection when the person has like 4 voice lines. That
I know.
I
I like guessed it was Ichiko like
I don't
right away. I
understand.
was like, is that Ichiko? And like Peastone was like, yeah, it is. And like confirmed for me. And I'm like, oh, or I think it was either Peastone or Kane. But they confirmed for me that it was. And I was like, yeah. And it's funny because now because I'm so deep into the second game and the first and second game that now when I hear like a Bleach trailer, I'm like Joshua, even though it was like 4 lines and he did the voice for Ichigo like what 400 episodes. So it's kind of funny.
Oh my goodness.
uh
Okay, do we want to talk about story or gameplay? I think you should take us away with gameplay. That'll be great.
oh my god. Okay. So the reason why he's poking fun at me is there is a mechanic of this game that I didn't fully click in my brain
It's more than
until
a mechanic.
halfway.
it's the
It's like
entire
a big it's a
it's
big
the
portion
entirety
of
of
how the
like
magic system works in
yeah.
this game. And I was just doing it blind, not realizing what I was doing and just fiddling with things and not quite clicking until halfway through the second game is when it finally dawned on me. And there's a literal clip of my realization of learning and what they have affectionately called rock math. So, in Trails of the Sky, they have a very unique magic system, which again, shout outs to the Trails series. That's freaking cool.
Mhm.
Like, it is very unique.
Oh,
It's
definitely. I've never experienced anything like that system. Like the court
no,
system is
neither have I.
fantastic.
I have not experienced a magic based system like this before. And it made it so that it was way more I don't know, way more customizable for you, where it's not just like you get a character with set magic abilities as they level up, they unlock. That's not how Trails does it. While
That
your
said, there
party
is
has set ability, like they have abilities. When it
mhm.
comes to the actual magic system, everybody can use like all your characters that you can get that are in your party can use magic. Um, but
But that I was gonna say, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
But certain ones are better suited to use magic than others because of how they've laid out this system. And it's actually kind of brilliant now that I've actually dawned on me that it worked. And and how much Peastone raged at me for not allowing him to give me help. Because the funny thing is like all throughout this first game, I was doing it without realizing the full potential of it.
Yeah, you were.
So,
I mean, I feel like it's really easy to do that though, right? Because the way
yeah,
it
and I think
works,
most people are gonna. So if you are gonna play this game and you want to kind of do what I did and sort of figure it out on your own, maybe skip this tiny portion of the podcast episode right now. But if not, we're gonna take you through what the community of Trails has affectionately called rock math. So when
really,
they
all
mean
we're gonna say one thing: just read the manual. That's literally all you have to
so
do. It's not like rock math is
something
not rocket science. Like, just read the manual. It tells you like between the tutorials and
I was this close to wearing a shirt that Eno has that's RTFM. This close because it's so ironic because I did not read the fucking manual. Yes. So something Trails does that's unique than a lot of JRPGs, especially older JRPGs, probably should have done. With how common manuals went missing with the game,
Mhm.
is that they gave you a digital version of the manual. So you have access to the entire manual of Trails in the Sky, first chapter, digitally built into the game. And they sort of tell you right at the very, very start of the game, or if you're fiddling around the menu, you're going to figure out that you have this thing. I will tell you what happened to Polly is that she entirely forgot the manual existed shortly after that.
I'm just okay. So the part that confuses me is like they even tie it into the story. It's like you become a bracer, they give you a bracer notebook, and it's like, oh, okay, like that is
Yeah,
a
they give you
relevant
so
thing
many
that you can
hints.
read through.
They give you so many hints of there's a manual, read it kind of thing. But the main character of the game is very much like, I don't need to read that. I could just go through, and that is exactly me. I am Estelle. So yeah, they give you this digital version of the manual, and then they slowly like explain a few little things with the magic system. So the magic systems are like these little quartz stones that septium can turn into quartz stones, that you can equip to your characters. And there's different elements depending on the stone. So like there's like fire, water, there's time, all that sort of stuff.
Time,
So
space, mirage, wind.
yeah, time, space, mirage, wind. I think that's all of them. Earth. Sorry, I don't
Earth,
think I
yeah.
said Earth.
You didn't say.
Yeah,
I don't
Earth.
think you said Earth.
So each of those courts are like tied with those different magic. And in the manual, it actually shows you it shows you the different magics
All of
of
it.
all those like that you can eventually unlock depending on how many you have attached to your character in a specific way. And so you have these courts or whatever you can put them in. Some characters have like where it's like, oh, you can only put a water in a particular slot.
Mm-hmm.
So like some of them have those. So you have to be careful with those. And then so that's how you get your magical abilities. And so in the magic list in the manual, it'll have like, oh, you could get this cure magic for 2 water points, basically, like 2 things. And then you can go into your, oh, this quartz is worth 2 water points. So if you put that on the character, they're going to get that magic ability,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool because it allows for super customization. Besides a couple of the characters where they have a couple slots where it has to be a particular magic, it's very interchangeable, very customizable. So if you want a character to be a primarily healer, you put a bunch of water stuff on them and like mix it around. If you
Sort
want them
of.
to be a more damage dealer or somebody who could just move further or hit better, or like you have all this freedom to like build them. However, there's another key component to aka rock math, and that's each character has kind of like a central like so when you attach it to a slot, it's kind of like this little circular device with these little slot points, right? If you go into your menu, you'll actually see it in like the bottom right hand corner of the game. Some characters have particular like you'll see they have no lines or 2 lines or 1 line. And that's part of where I got stumped on like understanding 100% that. And that's why it's so important to read the manual because it tells you what those mean. And so, and why certain characters are better magic users than others. So, for example, a really good one to use as an example is one of the characters throughout the game that you progress and finally release. Actually, I'm going to just start with, I'm just going to talk about Estelle. I think she has 2. She has 2 lines, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it 3? Is it
I'm
2?
working on getting an image in as well, so we can kind of
Okay,
just
yeah, okay.
explain it.
You work on the image as I explained. So Estelle right away as your first character. She could be a magic user, but she's a more well-rounded character. So she's good with physical, she's good with magic. She could be a very well-rounded character. And so two, perfect. So she has 2 lines. What I didn't realize until I like really dived into it is that each line is like separated. So yeah, there we go. That's a good
Yeah,
example right
that's a
there.
so this is an example of how this works. And so basically, this is Estelle's. So you would
Yes.
put 1 quartz in the middle, and then it would path out like down and to the right or down and to the left, and then continue on. And so if we say the left half is going to be 1 line, and then the right half is going to be the other line, the left line, everything that's on that left line will correspond to each other. So if you have 5 blue and like 5 water, 6 earth, stuff like that, and then kind of go from there, those would apply to 1 line, and then the other line would be you could have like red and or like fire and like time quartz, and that would be on that side. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the
And it
general
offers
gist
you
of it.
offers that thing of like, okay, if you have so for example, if we look at Estelle's here, she has the central point of the central one will connect to both the left and the right line. So that one will apply to both. However, if you put a quartz in the left line, it's only going to like the next left spot. It's only going to apply to the rest of the left of the side, and similarly to the right. So this is where the separation comes from. And so if you see on her, she has 3 with the middle one being 4 for 1 line, and 2 with the middle one being 3 on the other. So you have to think strategically, okay, what kind of abilities do I want? By looking through the magic list in the manual, the digital manual in the game, you can be like, okay, what kind of magic do I want Estelle to have? And so if whatever I want her to have, I'm going to put it primarily to the left because she's going to have more opportunity to unlock more spells. So the really cool thing is like every like little quartz you get, there's all kinds of different ones. There's like HP 1, HP 2, HP 3, but then there's mind 1 and mind 2. So like there's so many of the different colors. There's all kinds of earth ones, water ones, winds, fire, time, mirage, that sort of stuff, right? So there's all kinds of different ones that you can like put different ones in that line and it'll do they'll work together to unlock new abilities. So let's say there's you want to heal all your party members, not just one. Well, you need water and earth to be in the same line, or you do not get to heal all spell. And you need to have certain number of water and earth values to unlock those spells, right? So it allows you to have way more customization. And I realize now why I was so mad that I had a character who never had area effect magic, and it's just because I didn't put the right quartz in the right slots for
Mhm.
that line to give them area effect magic,
Because
right?
that's usually, yeah, that's usually how it works. It usually ends up
Yeah.
being the case where like it'll start as a weaker spell, and as you add more, it'll be a stronger spell. Then it'll go turn into like AOE or like larger effect, and then it'll just turn into like broken spells. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
something that you had mentioned earlier, so I actually swapped out Estelle's for Agate's, and you can see that there's actually, well, I used his specifically because you can see there's the red lines on the center one are actually uh like that is designated fire. So that has to be a fire quartz.
Yeah.
And that ends up making it so this is why certain people feel as though some characters are better than others, because the restrictions on where you can put their quartz and then also the different paths, because the way this is set up, Agate actually has, I believe, 3 different paths. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that, you could see the central point. He's got 2 to the left and 1 central. 3 are 2 to the right, 1 central, and then 1 above. So it ends up being 3 separate lines. So it's very hard to make Agate have AoE magic, for example, or to be really fluent with a particular magic, because he also has, if you look, he has the 2 red ones means he has to have fire in those 2 spots. So he's quite limited in terms of his customization when it comes to magic for like making him a magic dealer, which makes sense because his character story is more driven that he is beat people up with a giant sword.
Mhm.
So, they kind of thought about like the characters like personalities as well to kind of bend with their orbments, which that's what this is that you could see. That's their orbment where you could put the quartz and slot them in. And so Estelle, for example, having only 2 lines gives you more freedom of customization with her magic. And then you get a character, we'll talk about the characters in a little bit, but you get a character whose entire quartz is just 1 line. All the quartz are like connected into like a singular line, more or less, except for like 1, I believe. I think 1 is like an outlier and then
I got
it's
you.
all 1 line. um KJ with his Google foo here while we're speaking. Yeah, so look at this.
Mhm.
The entire quartz or the entire orbit system for this character is a singular line. So that means all the magic affects each other. So
Mhm.
it's way easier to make this character a mage, for example, doing some crazy magic damage. While yes, you have 3 that have to be blue, this character is going to be probably a pretty good healer because they have
Mhm.
3 blue and that's the healing spells. And then they have 3 other ones that you can build with it, like putting like an earth or a fire or a time or a mirage into those slots, or an earth or something like that, and put those into the slots, and then that will unlock other magic abilities that uses both water and earth and stuff. So making a mage type character, having something like this is a lot easier to do that. But in that sense, they consider that, so they often make those characters potentially a little bit weaker physically. They might not be as strong of a physical attacker, but they sure as heck is going to be doing some pretty crazy magic if you really like customize it. So there is so much potential in Trails in the Sky, and I believe this probably carries on throughout the series, but there's just so much potential in here to make customization for your magic spells however you want them to be. Um, and the only limitation you have is dependent on their ornaments. So, like agates, for example, we saw before had 3 lines. It's really going to be difficult to make agate a magic user
And I
for the
think
most part.
that's sort of like if I were to pull up
And that's
Zins as
okay
well.
because not everybody needs to be a good mage. Not everybody needs to be a good
Exactly.
physical attacker. You want a balanced party. And this allows you to have a little bit more control over making your party balanced because you can
Yeah.
pick and choose the ones you like a little bit more freely that way.
Yeah, this one right here is I think the one that frustrated me the most because I used Zin and like there's 4 paths. This is this is the
Yeah,
absolute worst. It's
Sins is
so rough.
literally the worst to make useful. Yeah. Because he's
But
also got 2 spots where they have to be earth.
which is actually where you that's the advantage. That's the advantage. Like yeah, there were definitely some things, and it's really interesting because we have a bunch of people in chat talking about like how they use magic and how magic is broken. I did not play Sky One like a lot of people did. I don't think.
If you're about to say you didn't really use a ton of magic, same. The only real magic that I used a lot in Sky 1 was healing.
Oh, I didn't. I healed, but I didn't. I didn't take that approach. I actually Sky One and some of Sky Two. I used the reason why Zin was in my party is because of his Earth slots. Because I
Yeah.
spammed the like Earth protection, and because he had
Oh,
Earth
yeah,
slots, I
Earth
was like,
does have
oh,
a pretty
I
strong,
give him, I just give him the best Earth slots or Earth quartz, and then I give him a couple of water quartz, and now I can spam Earth protection for everybody. So like I didn't need to cast magic because I had the ability to have everyone up front just attacking, like, and then healing if I did like mess up the turn order or the turn order got screwed up or something like that. But yeah, I didn't spam magic nearly as much as like a lot of people I think did going through that game.
yeah, and I'll talk about it in our second podcast of the second chapter, but I'm with you in like in the first game I didn't use a whole lot of magic either because I also didn't realize how this entirely worked yet by then. So I just kind of brute forced the first game. And the only real magic that I was doing really was having the party member, which we'll talk about the characters in just a bit, who had really, really good healing. And I just had her in my party as much as I possibly can. So a lot of it came from like my AoE spells came from people's like limits and stuff like that, like their special abilities rather than magic. But in the second game, it's a different story for me. I use it a lot more, and that's why I was trying to figure it out a lot more. And took me half the game, but I finally figured it out. So that's what people affectionately call rock math because each line will add up to a certain number of points depending on which quartz you put in there, and those points add up in the manual for different magic to unlock it. That's how you know what magic you want to go for, what you want to unlock is you look at that magic list to go, okay, heal all is 2 water, 2 earth, and singular like time one or something like that. I forget what it actually is. So I need to make sure my line has at least 2 water, 2 earth. And I realized when I took the earth slot out of the character, suddenly I didn't have heal all anymore. And I was like, wait, where'd my heal all go?
Is it
So
Earth? I thought it was
it was
wind.
very, it was very like, those were starting to be the clues for me. And then when I looked at the manual, I was like, yeah, okay. This digital manual that has been here for like a game and a half. I finally actually looked at it. The irony about that digital manual is in the digital manual is also the plot of the game laid out.
Yeah,
And I
all the
always,
quests. It's a
all
quest
the
notebook too.
quests in it. It was a quest book too. And I would always look at those pages. I just always never went back up to the memo.
Wait,
I
you were
never went back up to
actually
the memo to look at it.
okay. Hold on. I thought you weren't looking at it at all. You
No,
were
no.
looking at the quest notebook
Mm-hmm.
and just skipping the memo.
Yep. Skipping the very top one. I was like, oh, I don't need that. I think I broke KJ's brain. Yeah.
How?
So,
How is that a thing?
because I was like paying attention to the quest and making sure I was getting the key components of the quest, and I just never went back to the top because I was like, well, that's useless. I don't need that. I know how to play the game. Jokes on Polly. But the irony about this is like KJ has seen me play Golden Sun, so like I don't read and pay attention to important things. Like, you know this about me. Yeah. So now that I've broken KJ,
Okay.
he's very disappointed in me right now.
I think the only other thing that is like gameplay wise that we need to talk about is that the game is on like the battle system is on a grid, which I think is really interesting because it gives it sort of like a tactics feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because that is something I think it was Kane said to me, "Oh, you're going to love this because like you're really going to have to think about some of these fights from a tactics standpoint." I was like, "We'll see." And I'm just going through, I'm killing stuff, and then I hit there's a wall in it's not in first chapter, but there's a wall in second chapter that I was like, "All right, it's time for me to start moving characters around." And like maybe I'll take my turn to move, not to try to attack or try to heal or something like that. So that was definitely something where I was like, okay. But yeah, in general, positioning is very important in this game as well, especially because there's different magic, and again, part of it's because I didn't use magic really in the first game, but like there's different magic that like some of it is gonna be a set area where it's just gonna be a circle, and it could be small, medium, large. Some of it is going to be like a set line. Some of it is just going to target a specific group of people where or group of enemies where where like one enemy is the focal point, but it hits everybody else as well. So there's various different pieces of it. And I think the first game kind of allows you to kind of brute force it, right?
Yeah.
I think the first game
how
definitely
I got through it.
the first game definitely allows you to brute force it, and then it doesn't really start until later on in second chapter where like it really forces you to use the game mechanics, and then going forward you have to use the game mechanics. But yeah, no, I think in general, first chapter it does allow you to brute force things. The only thing you can't really kind of go in with a hammer and try to get is you cannot 100% this game without like a guide, because there's secret quests and different things like you will just outright miss out. And then there's also timing based things where like if you progress the plot you will just lose out on those quests. So those are things you cannot brute force. But
yeah, 100%ing this game, you definitely need a guide for it because there's just too much of that, and you can't like brute force like it's very difficult because you have to like talk some of them to unlock them. You have to talk to certain characters at certain points in a plot, which involves backtracking to talk to them while you're already going forward to the plot. So it's like
I missed 4 quests without a guide, and 3 of them I could have picked up. I literally talked to everyone, but it was just that like there's one that's like it's in the third chapter, funny enough, and it's like a book quest where you have to go find books. So the first one you get on the board, on the bulletin board, and then the next three you get after you turn in the other books. And I totally forgot to turn in the other books because I
Oh.
got so wrapped up in the story that at the end of the chapter, Joshua was like, "We have books to return." I'm like, "Oh," and then I went to them. I did everything, and so at the end of every chapter, I was like, after I finished the chapter, I would look at the guide and be like, "Oh, did I get everything?" And I saw that I missed those three, and I was like, "Well, there goes my chance of getting close to 100%." And then there was one other quest that I had missed as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
I
a little
forget how
frustrating,
many
but
that
it's
I ended up missing. I don't think I actually missed that many because I do remember doing a lot of them. I think
mhm,
I did the book one too. Um, but yeah, it involved like talking to a bunch of people. It involved like there was one quest you had to like while you were doing the plot, you had to not keep pushing forward with the plot and like come back and like talk to somebody or something like that.
mhm,
And like that one I think was one of the ones that I feel like is like the part where I think you can't brute force getting all the quests done in
yeah,
this game because of that one specifically. Like you would have never, because it was like I think it's like one of the only ones you had to do that. So like, and I didn't get that one. I don't know if you ended up getting that one. I can't,
yeah. I
like,
the
I
only
remember
like I said,
looking up the ones I missed and I was like, oh, there
I
was
missed
no
the
way.
library ones. I missed three of the four library ones, and I missed one of the escort missions.
Oh, that's right. You missed that one
I missed.
escort
I
mission
think I
that
missed
I
the
had.
first escort mission because I just
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah, and because it was like it was such a very short time frame to do the escort mission. And then like once you like advance the plot just a teeny bit, it was gone. So
Mhm.
like I remember I got that one and I had talked about that and you're like, "Oh no, that's the one I missed for the escort
And
mission." And I was
I
like,
think
"Oh yeah."
there's
It's like such a short window to do it.
another thing to bring up is that even if you do all the quests, there's still like a lot of times where they're expecting specific answers. So if you
Mhm.
don't answer in a specific way, you won't get the extra bracer points. And this is something that's common throughout the entire franchise from what I've played so far is like they're expecting
Yeah.
certain answers when dialogue options come up and you'll get more bracer points and things like that depending on if you do select the correct answer. So that's another way that it's like not overly forgiving because like you can just miss out on points with that. So
It does allow for the fact of like replay. It does give it a little replay value if you ever wanted to 100% the game, to go back and play and like to do those with a guide and like figure it out and get all those quests and stuff like that. But yeah, with those battle points being tied, or those bracer points, sorry, not battle points, bracer points being tied into some of your responses to those quests was wild. And it does it a little bit in the first game, but going forward, it seems to be a key component that they just kept adding in and adding in, depending on your choices, changed how many bracer points you would get, which would also prevent you from 100%ing or not 100%ing. So there are quite a few side quests in the game. And even without a guide, KJ and I both ended up with a lot of them done. I can't remember how many I missed out on. I think KJ did a couple more than I ended up doing. The funny thing is like it was like a couple where it was like I missed them, but he got them, but
mhm.
I got them and he missed them. So it ended up being like there was a couple like the one escort thing that I got, and I was just like, oh, I hate that the stupid escort thing is happening where it's like such a short time frame, and you're like, yeah, I missed that one, and I was like,
Yep.
oh shit, and it's like right at the start of the game too. It was like one of the very first. It's your first escort quest, I think, that you have such a tiny time frame to actually do it in. So but I think we both did pretty well by the end. I think we were both um
Yeah,
pretty high rank.
I got to the highest rank. But the problem is even so you can actually carry over stuff even if you get to the highest rank. You can only miss like 4 BP to get everything. You can get the highest rank and still not carry over not get like the ultimate rewards or whatever. which is unfortunate.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I had the top rank then, like, but I was very close. I think the top rank was like S or SS or something. I don't remember.
I think it was Branker or Bracer rank. Yeah, something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah. Or no,
It's.
or was it numbered in the first game and then
I think it was.
letters in
I
the
think it was
second?
numbered. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was like
It
it
is.
was
It
like
is. It is. It is. Yes, it's like Junior Bracer, like 1 through 12, because then there's A rank and S. Yes,
yes,
it's
yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
once you're a Senior
Okay.
Bracer, it's letter rankings.
It's letters. Okay. I was just getting it confused with the second game. My bad. Again, we were playing these games back to back. Sorry about that. Yeah,
I'm
so it was numbers.
yeah.
I think I was like 1 or 2. I was either rank 2 or rank 1. I can't remember. But like I got pretty close, even without a guide. So like, but yeah, I don't think this game is possible at 100% without a guide. But I mean, when it came to the side quests, like I like so in Trails in the Sky, the only way you get money, you don't get money by killing monsters. You get septium, which allows you to take like these little stones that turn into the quartz for the magic system, right? That's what you get from monsters and random items.
Mhm.
You don't get money unless they're from a chest, like a treasure chest, or it's from the Bracer Guild for doing quests. So like unless you never want to be able to afford equipment, you still have to do some bracer quests. Like some of them they'll
Yeah.
give you plot line wise to do and then they'll give you money for doing them. But this game, the way the money system works and how you get it, you will have to do some side quests. You're just going to have to do that just to be able to afford stuff.
I mean, you can also just grind a ton and then trade in your.
I mean, you could grind a ton and like trade in the septium for money. Yes, you can do that. There is that, but it takes way longer than just doing the side quests. And I think it's a really great incentive to do the side quests by doing that because the side quests often have extra character development
Yeah,
or
they do.
extra world building or extra like, characters that you'll end up seeing down the road as another side quest and you're like, "Okay, what are you up to this time, sir?" Like the escort mission. You have to do the very first one to get the second one. So without doing the first one, you don't get the second escort mission of the same guy. And it's because he's running around trying to get ingredients and not paying attention to his safety. And you're like, sir, like you need people around. You can't just be running around like picking these monster ingredients, right? And so I think that's just really cool and it gives you more character development because like you get more like their interactions with those characters and you get their party banter between each other dealing with those characters and it just adds to the experience of the game. It's one of like I am somebody who is like KJ and I kind of I will go off and get distracted by side quests for a million years where KJ's like plotline. He's
Okay,
he
don't sell it like I'm only doing. Okay, that's
No,
ridiculous.
no, no.
No,
You'll do
you get
side
wrapped
quests,
up.
but you're
Okay,
not like
I will do
you're
side
not getting
quests. You get wrapped up in mini games, which
Okay, that's
also,
fair.
by the way, you're gonna be totally screwed later on in the series. Because
I'm never gonna beat the series if there's
there's
mini
so
games.
many
Don't do
mini
this to me.
games and things. But I think the thing about this game was because they did incentivize the side quests, and there was still enough that like Polly was saying that you're getting enough plot or like development in the characters. I was like, okay, these side quests are worth it. If you're just giving me
Yeah.
side quests and it's just like these are side quests or these are fetch quests or something like that,
Yeah.
then I'm like, meh, I'm all set. Throw it away. But because these side quests actually, at least in the Sky games, because the side quests are pretty good and actually do give character development and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I can do these.
Yeah. And like And that's more what I was saying. I could get side. The funny thing is in an RPG game, I could get stuck in side quests no matter how minuscule they are because I'm just having fun wandering around and doing them. I find I could get those, but I like the way Trails does side quests because they make it worth doing them in a sense of like rather than just getting that random item or that random loot you're gonna get from it or the money from it. They give you they give you a reasons like you need that money, but then it's also like you're gonna get those character development, you're gonna get those little things. It reminds me of like Star Ocean 2 private actions and stuff that they or the Star Ocean series having the private action system, except for they give you more of a reason to do them without explaining. So like Star Ocean has these awesome private actions, which is a lot of character building in those private actions and or
Mhm.
getting characters through those private actions, but they don't really push you to do them. So it's very easy to go through the game and not really do any of them or very few of them. Whereas Trails, they have these side quests and stuff, and unless you are doing the killing the monsters and selling the septium way of making money, you're gonna need money. You're gonna need
True.
to do it. You're gonna need money. And then some of the side quests can tie into like main quest in terms of like you're interacting with certain characters that are in the main quest. So then that's kind of driven being like, oh, I get to interact with this bracer, or oh, I get to interact with this person I've already met, or what have you, right? So you get more like a little bit of story going on there as well. So it's definitely I definitely like the way they do it in this game because I feel like it's less likely
Mhm.
people are going to just skip them.
Yeah.
Um
They incentivize them. They make it worth it.
they make it worth it, and then it's also like I encourage people to do it because it's like you get all that stuff, and it's like how I encourage people to do the private actions in Star Ocean. But it's also I can understand that it's not as incentivized in terms of like especially for first playthroughers, um, of like, oh crap, I could have got a badass character if I did that. What? When? Where did it tell me to like? So
I
it's
don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about
we
it. I
won't
don't
go
want to
into
talk
that
about
because
it.
it's a kind of a sore spot. But I like how Trails in the Sky, even though luckily there's no character locks behind doing those side quests.
That we know
It's
of.
just they give you reasons to do it,
Yeah.
and I think that's really cool. Because it also makes the game longer in a way too. Because you're doing those things and you're doing that building and you're getting to be more immersed in the world, it makes you take longer on the game.
I think that can be a negative though, because I can
It
and
didn't push its luck though. Like so if it turned a game from a 30-hour game to a 100+ hour game because you had to do all these side quests,
you almost
that's a
dropped the
problem.
game because of the side quest, Polly. Let's not call let's let's call this
To be fair,
like let's take this at face value and let's call this how it is. You
so the
almost dropped the
reason
game
so
because
what
of the
he's
side
what
quest.
he's referring to is actually what happened in terms of the timeline when we played this game.
Yeah.
So KJ had a portion where he was in like he was going from one job to a different job. So he had this portion of time where he could like dedicate to play it. So he was able to do like 6, 7, 8 hour play times. I think there was one time where you like sat there like didn't you just sit there for
I
like a
played
whole
for
day?
some amount of time.
Yeah. So you and it was great because you were like, I'm like, I really want to get through this. I want to do this. Where I had the exact opposite. I had like an hour a night every other night. So my problem was like when I'd start getting into the plot, I ran over my time a lot. So like I would be like, okay, I have to go to bed at 11. I could play for an hour. I'm going to play please don't play Trails like that. Do not play Trails first chapter the way I had to play it, where you only had like an hour a night to do it. Because it's such a plot like it's got such a really good plot that will pull you through, and it does so much world building in the first chapter. I think like first chapter is set up and a lot of people call it slow, and I felt it was slow and I almost gave up because of the way I was playing it. And I realized with second chapter, my problem. Second chapter, I'm able to play it for 4 or 5 hours at a time. I'll stream it for like 10 hours. So like I'm getting to play it longer, getting right into it, really be immersed. So doing the side quests here and there wasn't a problem. But in first chapter, I was only getting like an hour every other night. And when I would start getting into the plot, I'm like, crap, I have to go to bed. And I'm halfway through Joshua's conversation right now. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, so like it stressed me out in terms of like I was basically only getting to do the side quests for a long portion of time, like for like almost a month. I was only getting to do side quests
Mhm.
and I was bored because of that.
Yeah.
So it's like
So that's why I said there it's definitely the case where like the side quests can burn you out. That
they
is
can,
yeah.
and especially the way I was playing it, where I couldn't play a lot of the plot alongside the side quest, where I was like, just do the side quest. And that's my problem with a lot of RPG games where I get hooked onto the side quests and I'm off doing the side quests. I don't get the main plot line done. The game never gets beaten. Skyrim. Skyrim is a very good example of that. I have 200 plus hours in a save file of Skyrim without being past like going up the hill to see the elders and getting your shout abilities passed. Like that's how far I got in the plot. And I went, ooh, shiny went this way. And I never went back. So like, and then I would be like, I don't care about Skyrim because I didn't do the plot line. So like that's my problem with first chapter is that that's what happened to me. It's like I caught up doing the side quests because they would only take me like I'd have an hour and I'd get a couple of them done and I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm efficient with my game time." But I was like, I wasn't getting too much details of the characters except for the
Mhm.
ones that kind of gave me a little bit of character building. I was getting more world building, like sidey quest kind of feel stuff, and I was just like,
I'm just taking notes. Polly doesn't like world building.
oh, I love world building when I have
I'm messing
character
with you.
development and other things happening too.
I'm
Like it
messing
was
with
like
you.
I
I'm
was
messing with you.
missing the key aspects that would drive me to complete the game. And so after that first month, when I started to like after that convention, I had Anime North, I was done it. I was able to start putting more time into trails. Then suddenly I was hooked. I got past a little bit and I started getting more character development along with the side quests, along with the world building, and it all kind of connected together. And like from there on, I was like, okay, I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens. And like plot points started happening where I was like, okay, what's going on? Like there's something going on here. What's this? And so I was driven to do more because I had more time to play it.
Mhm.
So I think my recommendation absolutely is if you only got like an hour every other night to play a game, maybe don't play Trails in the Sky and devote to that because I feel like all the other Trails games is just going to keep getting worse in terms of like there's a lot of stuff in each of them and they get longer and longer and longer and longer. And like the Cold Steel games are apparently really long. And so like only having an hour every other night, it's going to be like trying to watch the anime One Piece where you're doing
Two
like an
episodes a night.
episode. No, no, not even 2 episodes. An episode. Or no, yeah, no
Yeah,
equivalent
two.
of two
Two.
episodes. Yeah. 2 episodes every other night. That would take you 3 years to get through One Piece. Not more than that.
More than that.
More than that. It would take you more than 3 years to get through One Piece if you did it at that pace. So it's like trails
It
might
would
not
take you about
be
6.
trails might not be the way that might not be the sales series to do. So it's just it ended up being like and that's why now I'm back to where there's another convention coming up, so I've been less time. Now I'm like trying to really push to get through second chapter because like first chapter is a lot of world building. So in this one, you're gonna get a lot of world building, you're gonna get character development. That's why it's so important to be able to be doing the plot along with the side quests, along with the world building all together in bits and pieces, or you're gonna end up like me where I almost gave it up because I was only really doing a little bit of the side quest, which gave me a little bit of the world building, but I didn't care about the characters yet, except for the main character, because I wasn't getting the character development from the main plot line of the game to tie everything in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, okay, it's not like Skyrim, for example, where the main quest line doesn't really matter a whole lot, and you could go off on the side quest doing your own thing and have a lot of fun doing that. Very different kind of experience. That's why I have 200 plus in that without doing the main thing. And Trails I would have dropped if I had to keep doing it that way. Luckily, time freed up and I got to play it a little bit more. But like,
And I told you to keep playing because it's
and you kept telling me because you knew I would like it. It was just the circumstances to which I was playing the game
yeah.
was the problem, not the game itself. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Should we? I think we've pretty much we've jumped around a bit. I think the only other thing in sort of the only other thing we didn't mention, I think gameplay wise, is the S break system, which I thought was really cool because it really allows you to manipulate the turn order, which I really enjoyed. And that's something that's just in the Trails game as a whole. Like there's like a special every character has like specials that you can equip, and you can just interrupt at any point the turn order and just have them use that move if they have like that gauge filled up. And
yeah,
that is such a lifesaver. That
it
feature is such a lifesaver.
Oh, I like the way they do the turn order too. So like I like games where they're kind of showing you who's coming up next. Because it gives you a little bit of like that tacticy kind of like strategy portion of the RPG, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I have 3 characters who can get attacks off before the enemy gets their next one off. So you can really strategize how you're going to go through that fight. And while you can brute force most of the first game, the second game you start like really having to like really manipulate that system. And it's really cool because like KJ was saying, as your character gets hit or does attacks, they build up this gauge. And it's kind of like if you've played like Final Fantasy 7, for example, the limit break system, where the more you get hit, the more it builds up and then it unlocks a limit break. It's very similar in Trails of the Sky, except that you can use that ability whenever you want, even if it's going to be the enemy's turn, which is so helpful
Mm-hmm.
because you can get off an extra heal before the enemy obliterates you. You can get off an attack and kill the enemy before it can ever hurt you. So it's really fun that you have this extra mechanic that allows you to manipulate the turn order like that, outside of a spell speeding you up or item speeding you up, which is freaking cool. And in that system is so you have this gauge building up, and you can build it up to 100 or 200 to do like basically it's the same like special move you're doing that you have attached, but it does more damage if it gets to the 200. It's
Mm-hmm.
like going from like, oh, it'll do 1,000 damage to 2,000 damage. Like it doubles almost its capabilities. If it's a healing ability where it heals your whole party, it makes it an even more powerful healing spell, right? So, which is really cool. But you also have special abilities of each character tied to that gauge. So let's say you have like 80 out of 100. You can't do your special move yet. You have these abilities where you could do like Estelle's morale, where everybody around her, their strength will go up if you sacrifice 20 of that gauge. So it
Mm-hmm.
really starts to like offer like your thinking of being like, okay, is it better for Estelle to do her big Uber move or boost everybody up where they can all do better attacks, or stun the enemy, or impede the enemy, or like throw off the attack order? Like one of my favorite moves to do is Agate's turn delay move.
Oh yeah, I
And
spam like attack delay arts. I spam those.
it's so awesome to be able to get that off, and then you make it so that the enemy can no longer like they go below your party again, so it's basically like taking their turn away, and it's so satisfying to do that and be able to do that. So like sometimes with Agate, because I find his spell almost or his move almost never misses for me on the enemy, so like I'll let Agate get his 100, but then I'm spamming that move so the enemy never attacks anyway. So I don't have to do his ultimate move sometimes.
Oh, see, I didn't. I played that totally differently. I pretty much spam like because Agate has the ability where he can cut like it's like 70% of his HP for 150 points in the gauge. So like I would spam that
I've never
ability.
used that move.
Oh, I spam that ability so
Fun
like
fact, I've
I
never
would
used that yet.
I would I would basically like try to get my turns so that somebody was close to him and could heal him. So I would use that, use his special, almost clear the board, and then heal him, and then just do it again. Like I spam that so much. I especially in later like in second chapter and stuff like that. Like yeah, I spammed that.
Good to know. I've never actually been gutsy enough to use that move, but I could see the potential of it. Yeah, because you shoot up with the 150, and then you could spam either the attack delay move or do his. I like his AOE move, the one where he can hit in a wide area of enemies because it always does crazy damage for me. Um, but yeah, so you have this extra strategy where all your characters have these special moves that they could do, or they could do an ultimate move. And
Mhm.
some characters, it's better to spam their other like moves. Like there's a character that you get, Tita, who has a ability where in an area she makes everybody blind. So like
Mm.
they don't hit you anymore. So it's like I love using that spell with her because like I just mop the floor with the enemies. They don't get an attack. They constantly miss me until I kill them, right? So like I love that move with her. And rather than using her ultimate, which I feel because she doesn't do like super crazy damage, I find it less relevant. So I'm using more the special move that takes 20, they're called, I think they're called it's combat points, so CP.
CP, yeah.
Yeah, CP. So I keep using the 20 or 30 CP to make everybody blind rather than using her ultimate move. um so every time you get hit or every time you use a move, it builds up that CP gauge, and you have those abilities access to you. And then your special move on that character can change depending on your level. So as you
Mhm.
level up your character, you might unlock another special move. Some characters unlock AoEs. Some people start with AoEs and unlock single attacks, which make them better against like bosses or one-on-one fights, kind of idea. Um, but characters like Agate and Zin, I just kept their AoEs on because they just did crazy damage. So it was like, and Zin's was literally freaking Hadouken. He was just like Hadouken, and it was just this big explosion.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty
Like
much.
I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave that because it's just a cooler looking thing. Um, but yeah, so like the gameplay is really really fun. It offers like with the magic system, with the combat point system, with messing with the turn order,
It
getting to do
offers a
those
lot
moves.
of
There's
a lot
so
of
much customization to the battle system because
yeah.
of it.
It offers a
It
lot, and it's one of those things where like some of it you can tell it's been inspired by other games that came out before it, but it's a very unique twist on everything that's out there. Like it
Yeah.
is a
It stands
really
out
cool
on its
battle
own in
system.
the end. It was like, oh, this did this right, this did this, did this. We're gonna make this system that kind of picks from this, and this, and it made it its own thing. And it
Mm-hmm.
stands out as being such a great system in that way. Like the combat's great. Like you have where you can set up like where your characters are, like your position of your characters, which is very tactics game feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You mess around with the order, you can mess around with the magic systems of the different characters. Like it's just so much. There's so much there that you can play around with it to customize, to play the game how you want. Because as we've realized doing many of these episodes, KJ and I play RPGs differently sometimes, and this game really allows you to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it lets you, and even with the characters you choose in your party too. Like people tease me the characters I choose for my party, but there's really no wrong answer of who you have in your party unless you have Olivier in your party.
I
Then
was
that's a
just
wrong
about to say if you have Olivier in your party, I'm judging you a little bit, but
answer.
that's
But otherwise, like,
not because of his usefulness in battle, just his character as a whole.
oh my god, his character just
I mean, I think that's a great
typical
segue into
bard.
talking about the
Yeah, should we talk
story and the
about the
characters.
characters?
Again, Olivier is a good battle character, but As a
Good
character in
battle
general,
character, I
I
will
cannot
admit that.
stand that character.
And now that I understand rock math better, I see how he utilizes as being a really strong mage slash combat
Oh, he
attack.
like I said, he's a very good character in battle.
He is kind of OP, like building him and everything, but his personality and his character development throughout first chapter just made me cringe so much. Like I get they were going for the whole bard thing, with him, like typical kind of like bard where they're a little bit like more like flirty and playing the music and luring people in with the music and yada yada. Like I get what they were doing with him, but goodness, does he just come off like my creep radar goes off every time he has a conversation.
he
Like
just
he's hitting on you. He's hitting on your main character's like adopted brother guy, family member. He's hitting on like
he's
everybody.
hitting on everyone. It's
He hits
not
on everybody. And then he's like keeps suggesting, to
his
oh, it's just
his decision making is,
yeah.
can they walk? If yes, I'm gonna
Then
shoot
hit
my
on.
shot.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
literally his. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, so yes, he is harmless, but like, or at least they establish him as harmless, but like, it's just like, I don't know, it's just overdone.
It is, and I am unfortunately not the audience for that kind of a
Same,
character. Like
same here.
I don't like characters like that, even if they're like, they're doing kind of a bit of a bit, but like they're harmless. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna cross a line necessarily. Still, yeah, not those aren't my kind of characters. I'm
Same.
not and so he's a character that kind of pops in and out in first chapter. And that's something you'll learn with the Trails in the Sky game is that characters kind of pop in and out. Um and so you tend to have KJ's favorite party splits a lot
It's
in
okay.
this
So with
game.
Sky One, I wouldn't say like I didn't hate the way they did it in Sky One because it was the case where every chapter had basically a guest character, right? Or a
Yeah.
guest character or two. And they still kept Estelle and Joshua in your party.
Yeah, they gave you the two characters from like basically start to end as being the same two characters that were going to be in your party. And
And so,
every like the
oh,
battle system and the enemies and stuff like that, like everything's kind of set up in a way that you're pretty okay with them.
mhm.
Like so it's matters a little less on who's in your party after that. In the first game.
Yeah. I will say I was very annoyed in the beginning. Like I had a party and then they took characters away from me, and then I had a party, then they took characters away from me. By chapter 3, I was like, okay, I see how this game is going to be because it's
Yeah.
a sort of like world building and you're on Joshua and Estelle's adventure. It was like, okay, really, they're going to be in the party regardless. And then it's going to be like you're meeting all the different characters, and then at the end you'll be able to put uh everybody in, or anybody in that you want. And that's exactly how it ended up happening, where it was like
Yeah,
the
that's
final
exactly, and
dungeon
they
you could
set
pick
it up
whoever.
that that's basically what's gonna happen. You knew that was gonna happen after a few chapters going, "Okay, they're gonna keep doing this." And I think party splits in that aspect, I'm also okay with because they allow for more character to building. Like, you get to use all the characters. Like,
Hmm.
one thing I find with a lot of JRPGs, they'll give you these characters and give you the choice to put them in your party or not. And you might never use a lot of characters and never see their potential. A great example is Breath of Fire 3. A lot of people didn't see Peko, a little onion guy that you could put in your party's potential because he came basically at level 1 and you could like build him up however you wanted,
Mhm.
but everybody else was like 10, 15, level
And
20,
there's
whatever.
there quite a few games do stuff like that where
And
it's like
quite a few JRPGs do that. And
Fire
so
Emblem is
while you
actually
have these
really
character options, you're like, I don't really know these characters unless I'm going to be using them. And you don't
Mhm.
know how they play. And like I have like a every time I replay Final Fantasy 9, for example, I keep swapping who my main 4 people are.
Mhm.
Because otherwise I wouldn't have really ever utilized some of the characters like Amaranth or Freya or that sort of stuff, because I had my Garnet and Zidane. Oddly, this was my party and I never quite understood how this
We're
was
about
my
to get off on
default
a
party.
tangent. I can feel
We're
it.
gonna get on a
'Cause you're
tangent,
gonna tell me
but it
your
was like
party and I'm gonna be
Garnet,
sad about it.
Eiko, Vivi, and Zidane was my main party. Don't ask
Huh?
me why. I know. Okay, don't judge me. But like, so with JRPGs and stuff like that, I tend to be like, okay, like these are the characters I like. I'm gonna put them in a party, even if they don't really mesh well together.
The
So,
three mage thief party?
I had 3 mage
I'm
party.
confused.
Yeah, so because I those were my character, those were the characters I liked the most out of all 8 characters you got to pick. I liked those characters the most. So that's what I used. Whereas games like Trails of the Sky, I like that their party splits happen because you have to use all the characters. So you get to experience how their magic system works or their battles, like their mechanics work. And you're getting all these stuff. And then by the end of the game, you get to choose your party that you want to go with.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around your Final Fantasy 9 party.
I knew that would like break your
I'm
brain.
very, very
That was
confused.
young Polly playing Final Fantasy 9 for the first time. That ended up being my default party.
I just
Um,
you
sometimes
if
I
you get hit,
swapped
you
out
lose.
Eco,
If you get hit,
Ico.
you lose. Like,
No, because I had like the protection. So I used protect and shell and stuff on my party, and so like my mages were like not squishy at all.
okay,
Um,
so what you're telling me is really
I
you
buffed
were
my
playing
party.
really you were playing Final Fantasy 9 for over 100 hours because you're sitting through all those cast animations and all of those summon animations. Oh my goodness, I would know. I love Final Fantasy 9, but oh my goodness, that is ridiculous.
They were strong if you utilize the magic and everything. Yeah,
Oh, I
you know,
understand that.
I
I'm
was
just
a
I couldn't
kid
do
though.
it.
You got to remember when I played Final Fantasy 9, I was like a kid with no chores and living out in the middle of nowhere. So I could put like 60 hours into the game. It didn't matter because
I
I
was
was
like 10
a
and I still played through with Zidane, Garnet, Steiner, Vivi. Like, that
I
was.
also really didn't like Steiner, so every excuse I could have him not in the party, I
I don't
would.
like Steiner either. We're getting off on a tangent. What
Okay,
we're
we're
talking
talking
about
about
Trails,
Trails. We're
not
not
Final
talking about Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy 9. I was using it as an example of like where you get multiple characters, but they don't really give you like, besides a couple little areas where you had to use a particular character, you were often getting to choose what your party was. Whereas in Trails, they were taking and giving back, taking and removing characters as you went along, and then you got to pick after you experienced everybody, which I think is such a cool way of doing it where you get to develop connections with all the characters
Mhm.
and then pick your favorite by the end. Whereas a lot of JRPGs don't do that. They're
Yeah.
just like throw whoever you want in the party kind of thing and go from there. Or have an astronomically amount of characters like Suikoden, where it's almost like crippling of being like, oh, who do I put? Who do I put? Like, there's so many options. And Trails, I like how they do it. I like the party split system, how they separated it so that I got to experience everybody. And so the characters that kind of like come and go from your party. So you have Estelle, who's your main character, and it's basically the entire story is kind of told from her perspective, which is great because she's kind of, don't read the textbook. I don't know what's going on in the world. It's so you're getting the world building through her eyes
Which means
because
there's a
she's
lot
learning
missing.
it. You're learning it with her. So you're learning it with your main character, which is freaking great because it makes you more connected with the characters, right? And then she has her a dad present child friend in her party with her. So
Her
like
dad, present, child, friend. I mean, that is kind of how the
okay,
game
you
opens.
start off the game.
And he's like, "I have a present for you." She's like,
I have a
"You
present for you.
you brought me a boy?"
So what we're talking about is right at the start of the game on how you find out Estelle and Joshua, how they get connected. And then they end up being your core two characters throughout the game. And the entire game is told in their perspective, right? Is that her dad came home and was like, I'm home, and she's like, okay. He's like, I brought you a present. She's like, oh, you got me a present. And he like he like, here's a 12-year-old boy. And my first line was like, you don't give people other people for presents. Like, what the hell? Trails in the sky. That's how you get started with this series. So right away, it's establishing that Estelle and Joshua, they're not blood related. He was just kind of brought into the family, and they grew up as, kind of siblings, ish. And so that's how you start off the storyline. And Joshua seems way more like textbook reading, kind of like doing things, but like he seems to be more of
Calculated.
like the analytical side of things. And
Yeah.
then Estelle's like, I'm gonna whack people with this stick. Estelle, you should really learn it. No, I whack people with the stick. I'm gonna go head first
Estelle
in
is
the battle.
everything. Like, I imagine Estelle being like Polly growing up.
I mean, it's pretty close, actually.
that is what I imagine. Like,
So when we first started this game, KJ started before me and kept telling me the main character was me. And I was like, I hadn't even started this game yet. Let's keep this in mind. And I'm like, okay, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like he's like, no, I like the character. It's a good thing. And then Dark in the community started playing, and he started saying the character was me. And then Meech started playing the game and said the character was me. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel like put in a box here. Like, excuse me. So when I started the game and I started playing, the funny thing is I was saying things to the game, and then Estelle would literally follow with the same line, practically. And I was like, shit, I have this character. This is literally me. This is how I handle things. This is how I am. Like, yeah, this is me. And a lot of the times I was just like, oh my God, we're fighting a big giant evil penguin. And Estelle's like, oh, we're fighting a giant evil penguin. I'm like, stop. This game is eerily creepy. Like, this game knew my life and I don't like it. And the funny thing is, this game would have came out when I was when I was her age. I would have been, well, this came maybe like what, 2004?
yeah,
Yeah. So I would have been 14, 15, 16. I would have been around that age.
that's
I would have
hilarious.
been 16. I would have been 16 and she's 16. And I was like, oh,
Really, in 2004, they just wrote The Adventures of Polly.
yeah.
That's really
So
what they did.
I'm convinced that one of the story writers for Trails like went to school with me, and and I had no idea. Anyway, so yeah, and so that got told that way. Anyway, and so obviously I connected with the main character right away. She's great. And I really like Estelle. I like how spirited she is. I like how she doesn't give up, and she is vulnerable at times. She gets hurt, she cries, she has things happen. She gets emotional and stuff. She's a human, and like they do a really good job at making her a protagonist you like to play, but also just human. Like, she makes mistakes and that sort of stuff, and she learns and she progresses, right? So you kind of get that journey. And without realizing where this game led, I kept referring to Joshua as a robot.
Yo, the poly robot Joshua voice was incredible. I DM'd Dark and P Stone and was like, she has no idea. She has no clue the decision that she
So,
that she has made on accident.
so we're gonna get to a little bit more spoilery territory. For those of you who do not want this game spoiled, please turn down the volume. We're gonna start talking about more of the story, and that will lead us into spoiler territory because we're gonna finish off the story with talking about how it connects into the second one. So,
Yeah, I don't even think
um,
we don't necessarily have to dive into the like I don't think we should dive into like the middle of the game. I think we should just jump to the end, honestly. Like
honestly, yeah. So
that's
so you get
really
all this world building, you get these characters coming in and out. The characters that you start to come in. There's Chloe. She's the one that both KJ and I really liked because she's a really powerful like mage kind of character. She was one of the orbaments we showed on screen
Mhm.
earlier. You get Agate. He's this red-haired, spiky red hair with a giant sword. Immediately, KJ's gonna hate me, but immediately I was like, Cloud! And he hates me every time I say that. But like he was my redheaded Cloud, and I obviously was like, I am team him. And the funny thing is I said his name wrong for so long. I called him Agate because that's how it's spelt, but it's supposed to be agate in terms of the stone that he's like named after. But I kept calling him Agate, and I always thought that was such a weird name. Until I was corrected, and I was like, okay, this is much better. Agate is much better. You get Tita, who's this really smart, like child genius, which I'm a big fan of, like genius type characters in games. So she was right away appealing to me. She's this cute little child genius with a giant gun. And I'm like, excuse me, little child, you have this bazooka as a weapon. Um, and then Olivier, which we've already covered, which is kind of the bard type, but he has a gun too, and he's also a really strong magic user. He's kind of a little OP if you do use him, if you can get past the very cringy things he says. And then who am I missing? Oh, you have Sherazad, who's like also had made some uncomfortable lines, but has grown on me since. Has a whip, lady. Uh,
her
whip.
special
Good move.
move is called like sadist whip or some shit like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Come on. They know what they're doing.
they know what they're doing with her. And then finally, you get a character who's this just big, tall guy who punches everything. He reminds me of Goku so much. He's like Goku in Trails, and his name is Zin. And so those are all your characters and stuff like that. I think that's really like as you go through the game, you're getting a lot of world building of the different countries and stuff like that. You're getting like side quests turned into like actual quests and connecting everything together. And these characters are going in and out of your party depending on what you're going and doing and how it relates to them and why they would be involved. But I think the big thing to talk about is the end of game. And I'm going to let KJ start with it because the end of the game is where this really just like
Yeah,
hits
so
home.
it it's so ridiculous. So throughout the entirety of the game, there's a couple of different things that happen. So this is going to be massive spoilers, right? So
Yeah,
there is
spoilers.
yes, massive spoilers.
Massive spoilers. Please don't listen to this if you plan on to play this game because it might like ruin the fun of learning this. So, all
So
right.
like the grand scheme of things, there's like a portion of the military that's trying to like overthrow everything and take over the country, right? And you think that the person that's doing that is the like main bad guy or whatever. And it just so happens that he also studied under um Cassius, Estelle's father. But then you find out that actually so we were talking about the escort missions earlier on.
Yep.
Those escort missions, you're escorting a professor.
Yep.
This dude
With
Actually,
a title card, by the way. He has a little
yeah,
portrait.
he has like a portrait, a title card, and everything. Yeah, Professor Alba, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
You don't know this, but at the very end of the game, he has an encounter with Joshua where he basically tells him that like he built him back up like a puppet. And has basically been effectively been controlling him, and like he was basically just a shell of a person, and it just like sets off so many different things happening. And
Making the robot voice applicable.
yeah, the robot voice was definitely a choice. Definitely a choice.
So many people were outraged, and I had a very logical reason to make him with a, because I was
Oh,
mad.
we weren't mad. We thought it was funny. We thought
so
it was fucking hilarious.
I remember Moody coming into one of my streams and started to hear me. She's like, "Why does Joshua have a robot voice?" So I explained to her the reason, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And then when I got to the end of the game, I was like, "I had no idea." That's basically
Yep.
basically what he
It was
was.
incredible. It was
Oh.
it was absolutely incredible. But
Yeah.
that I don't think that there's like that cutscene. I don't know if there's been like a more impactful like
Gut punch.
end of game cutscene that I've ever seen. Like that cutscene literally, because the thing is, it gives you a ton of backstory and sets the scene for the next game.
Yep.
But then it also introduces the true, at least to this point, like that you know of, the true villain, like who's kind of pulling the strings a little bit behind the scenes. Or it
Yeah.
gives you a more of a picture into
Up
that,
until
right?
this point, you have this world building going on where like you're finding out like mind controlling's going on and
Yeah.
things, but you keep like getting these certain things as like villains, but like they're not. And then you're like, oh, you were being mind controlled. You're not really the villain. And then you
Mhm.
go through you're being mind. So it basically connects all that together, and then it gives you who it was. And the funny thing is like it should have been somebody you suspected from like day one. But the way the game is laid out and set up and everything, and how you're going through, you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's still like so mind blowing. Because not only do they reveal the main kind of, at this point, like the villain pulling the strings, they also reveal that your party member from day one has also been feeding them information without knowing it,
Mm-hmm.
because his mind's all like screwed up and shit. So like, and because of his past and all, and you get portions of his past of what happened there, and like, and you're just like, oh. So not only you get a like, oh my god, it was you. I should have known it was you because you had a portrait. You had a portrait, and you were this stupid escort mistress. Like, and you were just always there. And the thing is like he was always there. Like
Yeah. I
every
mean,
chapter went through. He
he's
was
the reason
there.
you were able to get into like the last area. Like he was there, sort of
Yeah.
like he was there that he was basically clouding the minds of like some of the highest ranked bracers. Like,
Yep.
he
And it was
completely
like,
screwed up Kurt, and like Kurt was he was like one of those characters where you're like, oh my goodness, this dude is
he really fucked with Kurt. I feel bad
yeah.
for Kurt anyway. But yeah, and then his portrait goes from like the side view, like happy, nerdy looking, to then they give him a front view portrait and he just looks evil as fuck. And like you knew if you saw that portrait early on, you would have been like, I don't fucking trust this guy. But because they have like this side portrait throughout majority of the game with these big glasses and his big smile and big like thing, you're just like, oh, little cutesy professor guy. Like you're just like, it's so funny at how quickly you go from like oh, he wouldn't harm a fly to, oh shit, he's gonna fuck you up. Like,
Like
it's very like, yeah,
this dude
look
does
at
not.
this.
He does not look like he's gonna be anything important.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, he's just a professor character in the game. He's just kind of going to be like the researcher. I kept thinking it was going to be revealed that he uncovered like this whole mystery. Like I thought because you kept seeing him and he kept being at the different things, he was like connecting the dots and he was going to end up being like your main like information guy kind of thing, because that's what
And
he
then we
gives.
have this.
And then he turns to this shit.
Like
Like
he goes
just
from like professor that you think might be on your side to dude that has hella evil eyebrows. Like look
he,
at that dude's eyebrows.
He
Like
literally goes from goofy professor to fucking Eisen, and like like just a slight switch. Like he's literally Eisen. Actually, Eisen is a great example
I
because
don't know who that is.
Eisen and Bleach did a similar sort of concept, right? So same kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh my god. And yeah, so like he reveals all of that, and then he reveals fucking Joshua's been manipulated for so long, and then he just kind of is like, and this is the craziest thing. He's just like, bye. Like he literally just pieces out. And so you got Joshua standing there being like, my whole fucking life's a lie. And then you got Estelle coming back being like, I have ice cream.
But it's also really interesting because she runs into him on the way.
Yeah, and he switches back to that goofy face portrait where she runs into him and he's like, oh, hi, how's it going? Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
Joshua's over there. And she's just unsuspected, keeps walking. And there's like Joshua, like world shattered.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because he
and she's
like
like,
Peastone
ice
just
cream?
mentioned in chat, he unlocks his memories and like
Yeah.
gives him more of his past to remember where he's from, what happened, all of that stuff.
And that everything is true, that he had been being like manipulated, and he was also being, and he was like there to like infiltrate like he was there to infiltrate the family and get
And feed
information
them
on Cassius and
information about
everything.
Cassius.
Like
Yep.
it's like, could you imagine like being in your foster family, being super happy, starting to, I hate to actually say this because like I don't like this trope in anime and they do it a lot, and I'm not knocking the game for doing this, but like having your adopted brother slash love interest,
Yeah, it's weird.
like
I don't like it.
yeah,
It's a weird
they
like
do it in anime,
it's
and I'm like,
weird just
okay,
because they pushed the there's
they push the
we can get
sibling
onto that
thing really
topic
hard
after
in this
this.
game.
But yeah, they push a couple of things really hard and it's like I don't like it. Like they push that like oh, you're close like siblings but also trying to be love interest because they do the same thing with Agate and Tita. And there's a
They
massive like other
they do.
characters are pushing it. Like
Mhm.
they've very clearly established like that is a sibling like that is a sibling relationship. But
Yeah,
other
and
characters push the issue and it's not
yeah, and
okay. Like the Agate
that's
Tita
where
stuff is
I
worse because there's
got.
also an age dynamic there.
Yeah, so Agate and Tita is way worse because of
Mhm.
the age gap. That's what really bothered me with that
Yeah.
kind of quest line. But with Joshua and Stell, they're very similar to age, but it's also, I think what frustrated me the most that it was very sibling dynamic, kind of at least on Estelle's side. Joshua, I think always kind of was like, there's more here, but it was other people again, like Shara, Olivier, pushing her to
Mhm.
be like, oh, but there's feelings there. And like there was even portions where you could tell Chloe kind of started to like Joshua. You could see that she was. And like, but then she was kind of pushing Estelle too. So it's just like, and then finally, I mean, Estelle kind of starts to realize there's feelings as she goes. And then we get this end sequence where like Joshua just found out that whole life, and the person he admires the most, his dad. Again, I hate that this is a love interest, but his
Mhm.
dad, he was there to basically spy on and everything. And he gets all that information. and then his whole past of to why he was led to being manipulated in the first place, and everything just all at once, and he's just like, and then Estelle comes back with ice cream, and you're just like, no, no.
Yeah,
So
that was wild. That was not a twist I was expecting.
I was not expecting it at all. I knew there was going to have to be a bad guy reveal because I knew there's multiple games, right? Like I knew there's a second game and a third game. So I'm like, there's got to be more here than what we just dealt with, because we also find out Richard was being mind controlled, right? The Colonel. So I'm like, okay. Like everybody's being mind controlled. Something's going on. So what I knew there had to be a thing. I never guessed it was going to be a friggin' Professor Dork guy.
Yeah, that, like I said, that threw me for a
Never
loop.
in my
That definitely
wildest
threw me.
dreams I would have guessed him. But I don't think I would have, like, I knew Joshua had a sad past that he kept to himself because it was being teased since the very beginning. That
Mhm.
Estelle wanted to know, but was also like, tell me when you're ready, I won't push. Which honestly, hands like shout outs to Estelle for having, like, you know, like boundaries. That, I mean, good job, Estelle. But so and then he kind of like he eventually starts to tell her a little bit of what he remembers anyway and stuff. It gives her bits and pieces, right? So like you knew there was something going to go on with Joshua, but like I never expected that at all. That whole thing either. Like I thought he was going to have like, oh yeah, he killed people in his path, wada wada. But like I never expected that at all. That he was literally a spy the whole time.
Yeah, that, like I said, it threw me for a loop. I was not expecting that at all.
Not expecting it at all. And one of those big twists that I'm like, okay, I'm hooked. I need to keep going. Like I was
I
already
told you,
like, I
that's
need to fit it, but I'm like, nah, I need to find out.
that's the thing with this game. I think it's one of those games that once you get through, more so than any of the other games, because I will say, like, having played, or at least to this point that I've played, right? The end of Sky 1 forces you to play Sky 2 because you need to know
Yes.
what happens.
Yeah,
Like
you
2
can't
into
leave it at that.
3, I could have legitimately said, okay, I'm gonna take time and not play 3. I just wanted to play it. But 1 into 2, I started to literally the same day. I had to. Just to know where it picks up. And then I was like, okay, I'll fit this in afterwards. But yeah, 2, it's just
2, you definitely have to, and you got to play these games back to get, because they definitely feel like they were meant to be one whole game ish, with like the story and stuff like that.
definitely.
And they definitely have that Golden Sun vibe where it's like it leaves off on a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah.
It leaves off unfinished. So after he gets this devastating information, like he finally has a talk with Estelle. He reveals what his past is to her. And then fucking pulls a whole Batman 4 movie shit on her by like having poison lips or something, kisses her, which basically puts her unconscious, and then disappears. And that's how you finish this game, because he's just like, I can't drag you along with this. I gotta go with the thing, like, but leaves her be like, that like, you know, I did care about you, but I have to go now.
I mean,
I don't want to drag you into this mess, because he just like it would have been really hard for him mentally to stick by her side. In all honesty, after learning he was a literal mole spy. Like that's hard. That's hard to stick by. And then he put her in danger, keep her in danger and stuff like that. So he did what he thought needed to be done. And so he like disappears, and she wakes up then and he's gone. This
I know this is an
person who's been
unpopular
by her
opinion.
side the
I know this is
entire game is gone.
This is an unpopular opinion, but I think he did the right thing.
By not taking her with him?
Yes.
I need to play more of the second game.
No, I'm saying even
Oh.
with like, I'm not even like second game aside, finding all of that out I think he did the right thing because it's one of those things where he's trying to not only protect her, but also I think he then had to like build himself up again and sort of figure out his place in the world because he thought he did that. But with knowing everything that he knows, he definitely needed to make sure that he was in the right place. So I think he did the right thing.
I'm kind of torn because while I see it from his side of what he was seeing, like he just had this whole crushing thing, he kind of has to find himself again at
Yeah,
this point. That's really hard to do with somebody beside you. But at the same time, he didn't give her a choice. He made the decision for her. And I
because
think
it's not.
that's what bugs me because it's like you're basically ripping yourself out of this person's life and just being like, see ya, with not entirely an explanation. Like you got a little bit of it. He didn't give her the whole freaking story. He didn't tell her everything. She finds out. Well, I guess I can't say. We'll find. I'll talk about it in the second
Mhm.
podcast episode. But so he gives her like this
Most of the
little bit
story.
of information. Poison kisses her, puts her to sleep, and then just takes off before she could like stop him. And while on his side, I could see why he did it, but he also didn't give her a choice, didn't give her a say, didn't give her anything, and also didn't really even overly explain it. So she's just like left kind of like broken and empty of having her family member removed from her when she's already lost one family member. So it's like, well, I realize I think he was looking more on his side of things than her side of things. What was best for her, he wasn't really considering. He was considering what he felt he needed to do to like protect her, but like he didn't like I think my biggest gripe is like and why I kept yelling that I was going to drag him back by his damn shirt his collar and yank him back. It's because he didn't let her like he didn't fill her in on everything and he didn't give her any choice whatsoever.
But it's
There
not
was no thing,
so.
even though everything up until that point they were deciding things together. So that's really hard to suddenly do to somebody you care about and then rip yourself out of their life when they've already lost a family member pretty tragically. Like you find out through the first game that she lost her mother through the war and stuff like that. So and then her dad's always like fucking okay, her dad's never in the picture.
I
he's
think
doing
the biggest
he's doing
thing.
cool guy shit all the time. Like
I
he's
think the
like
biggest
running
thing for
around.
me with that is you can't be there for someone else if you have to find yourself. So that's why I think he did the right thing because honestly, this trauma that he went through has nothing to do with Estelle. And at that point, it's like, yes, his actions are going to affect everyone, not just Estelle. They're going to affect everyone. But he has to build himself back up before he can be there and figure out what this new normal is around everyone else. Like, you can't, it's like,
I think he should have told her that. I think he should have like I know she would have wanted to be by her side, but if he would have
knocking
given
her
her the
out
full
probably
picture,
wasn't the right call. But to be fair,
poison
there's
lips
no
is never the
way
right call.
there's no way that she would have let that happen. That's the thing. So that is, I think that's
Yeah,
him.
it's
That's him
really
being
tough because it's
aware
like
and knowing Estelle and saying, there's no way she's going to let me leave. I need to leave to do this soul searching, to figure out where all of this stands, to cope with all of the things that he just got back into his memory. And it's like, it's that old saying of like you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. So that's
yeah, I think
where it comes
withholding
from, I think.
information with her, like he didn't get the part of the frustration was she was still like left not knowing I think like yes, I think she probably would have tried to push to go with him
Oh,
and then he
no, she
would have
would have.
had to
There's no if. She definitely would have,
she would have pushed and he would have had to sneak off in the middle of the night
because she did
regardless.
push.
But
She did
like
push.
But
And he
like,
was like, "No, I have to. I can't stay."
but he didn't give her enough context. He didn't give her enough information.
But
And I
it's
think if
because she
he
wouldn't have
would have,
understood. She would have still been like, "No, we can do this together." Like the fix it with a hammer is legitimate, in my opinion.
okay, but like, yeah, but at the same time, I just wish he would have given her more context. Like, he leaves her a lot more broken than she needed to be. And even after she kind of like, I can't talk about it because it's the second game. Now I see what you meant about it. But like, so, but like, I just feel like he didn't tell her enough. And then she's just like, like that broke her more than it needed to break her. I think he would have still had to sneak off. You're right, because she probably wouldn't have let him go,
Mhm.
especially because they had been together so long. They hadn't been apart since they knew each other,
True.
right? So he didn't like the two of them, and I think like I think even for herself as a person needed to grow without him.
I
Like
no, I totally agree. They needed to
they
grow
both
without.
needed
Yeah.
to separate to at that point. I just wish, I guess I just like keep looking back at it, and he withheld so much. And I get that's also part of the whole storyline to make it that
Mhm.
you play the second game and it gets revealed further on. But like it was also like kind of also in a sense unfair that way. Whereas like if you needed to really go and you needed to do the thing and you still did the thing, that's fine. But like leave her with a little bit more information.
I guess
Um
my thinking here is, if he would have given her more context, she still would have said, "Oh, I'm coming with you." Like at
She
the
would
end
have
of the
still said
day,
that, so he still would have had to like the results would have still been the
yeah.
same, but he would have left in a less mean way to her. Like she would have at least had, like she wouldn't have been able to process it either. She would have needed time to process it. So like he would have had to, Batman disappear in the night regardless. Like that would not have been able to change because he had some heavy shit to go through. She needed to have time to herself to figure things out, but I feel like giving her more context so she knew why, so she wasn't just like, oh, he just didn't like me anymore, he didn't want to be a part of my life anymore, he did, which is like beyond what it actually was. Like it didn't involve her at all. Wait, why the reason why he left had no involvement whatsoever, but she didn't know that. So not giving her enough context into the information, yeah, she still would have been like, no, I'm gonna think, because she wouldn't have really processed it. She would have needed time to also like,
Mhm.
oh, I couldn't go with him. Like he needed to go and do his stuff and like rebuild his sanity kind of idea. And I needed to learn to let people do that kind of thing. Cause she was very much like, no, I'm fucking doing it.
With
But
So
I
here's the
just I
thing.
just felt like it was just such a mean way to have done it. And then just to leave her like bits and pieces, but not the full story. And then she's just kind of sitting there and like of course she's gonna chase after him regardless, but like it's one thing, it's just like it was just, I don't know, it was just a really mean way to do it,
That's
is
fair.
what I'm
I
saying.
I
I
do
I
agree
think the
with
result still would have been he had to separate. Like I agree with you there, he had to leave
I
100%.
agree with Dark that if he gave her more context and then knocked her out or left, it would have been worse. Because then it would have been like, you confided this in me, but didn't think that you could. I didn't think that
Mm,
I would be able to help. I think that would be worse. Like, and I mean, I guess I'm projecting myself onto the character a little bit here at this point. Like, thinking about it from the perspective of somebody telling me something and then being like, I'm telling you this, but now leave me alone. Like, I need to just do this. It's like, damn, like, I not
okay,
help?
I see what you're saying.
So I think,
This is such a really tough one, and I
oh, it's
honestly
a good conversation to have, though, I
yeah,
think.
it's a good conversation to have because I'm trying to think of like the perspectives of both and
Mhm.
like what would have been the best avenue. And I just don't like, I think the agreement here is there would have been no right way to do this.
Yeah, there definitely would not have been a there would not have been a
There
right
would have
way to
been
do
no
it.
way to do this perfectly without one party or both party being hurt. Because separation regardless is gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Regardless if it was like, even if they were like a collective decision, even if for some reason Estelle got bonked on the head and was just like, okay, you go do your thing. It still would have been mutually heartbreaking. Like it
Mm-hmm.
still would have been like really difficult for the like that separation, right? So it's like there's no right way or wrong way to have done it. And I like this conversation because we're looking at it like different angles and stuff, but it's opening up that like, I mean, what if we're thing? Nah, I don't think that would have been like, no, I don't think that would have been like, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
do
like
think he
a
maybe could have
game
left
doing
her.
this.
He could
A
have
game
left
doing
her
this is
more.
like,
Like he definitely could have left her more from the like perspective of, hey, I'm leaving because of, like, even if it was more vague or something, like he could have given her a little bit more
yeah,
after
something
the fact.
like I need to I need to kind of figure myself out, or I need to like I'm having
Yeah.
some difficulties. I need to go figure my shit out, kind of thing. Like even just a little bit more than how vague it was. But at the same time, like there would have been no right way to do this. It was gonna suck either way, and it had to be done because I don't think he would have. I don't think he's going to be able to. I'm going to phrase this in a way like I haven't been playing the second game, but I don't think he's going to be like able to kind of like piece himself by having somebody there. He kind of has to go do his own thing.
Yeah,
And same with her.
and that's, I mean, when you,
They had to learn to be like that. They have to learn to be separate to figure their own shit out.
yeah. I'm trying to catch up on chat as well.
Yeah, and see, I agree with Peastone too. I think the full story. You're right. To dump all of that and then run wouldn't have been fair to the person you dumped on. Yeah, that's true. Like you never want to like give this heavy information and just be like, okay, I'm gone, and like delete all socials and you never hear from them again. Like what? That's really hard for somebody to process. But yeah, like I don't know what the answer would have been, but it's like it just felt so cruel too at the same time. Like it was really cruel. But it was also like I get like when you have that heavy shit and you're just like I got to figure my shit out. Sometimes you can't do that with people around you, even the closest people around you.
Yeah, no,
But like the knocking of Estelle out was a little like
that's the only
I
way.
know people are like people like I think it was Peastone said in chat that he thinks it was a pill, but I keep thinking it was like he kissed her and he had like his
Well, he
lips
did. I'm
laced
pretty
with.
sure he did kiss her, and it was like,
I think he had something in his mouth that he like slipped it. That sounds gross and weirder to me. I don't know. It's
yeah,
like
don't
poisoned
continue
lips.
that sentence, please.
Yeah, we're not gonna continue that sentence. But like the
But anyway, whatever he did knocked her out.
I just pictured the fourth Batman movie there with Poison Ivy and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Ice Guy, Mr. Freeze. I just
Ice
picture
guy.
like the poison lip
We got
things.
ice. There's some ice, y'all.
Yeah. But oh my god. The funny thing is so okay. So when we were setting this podcast, another tangent, of course, because we have to have more. Um, KJ was like, "Oh, I'm wearing your merch too," because he could see my camera, but I can't see him until we start the host because he's the one hosting. And I am wearing a Dave shirt. Also, this shirt is very comfortable, and I love wearing this. Like that, I like the material. And I guessed his shirt was gonna be the Wiggler, and he just did. He's just like, "You're gonna have to find out," and it's the fucking cheese grater shirt.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, I would never guess it.
Okay, so we've talked a
Fourth
lot.
Batman movie? No, because it was the fourth one because so there was four Batman movies originally. There was the two with Michael Keaton, the third with I forget his name, and then the fourth one had George Clooney.
And all of a
It's the
sudden, we're
George
talking
Clooney
about
one.
Batman movies.
Okay, sorry, but like that scene reminded me of the whole like poison lip scene from the George Clooney Batman movie, which I think was that one's fourth one of that series of like that set of Batman movies.
That's fine. I've seen like two of them, I think.
That's what I pictured. That's how
fair.
I pictured Joshua, like not slipping a pill in, like that's just fucking weird. No, it's poison lips. It's canon. That's how it happened.
Okay.
And
So I
yeah, so
think
you literally end this game with Estelle waking up. Josh was gone. So like anybody would be like, all right, let's play the second game.
pretty much. And like, I don't know. I usually hate cliffhangers. I definitely wanted to know more. I wish they would have given us teased out a little bit more, but because there was another game and I didn't have to wait to play it, it was great. Like, I think playing this when it came out would have been awful because these weren't localized like back to back to back like that. I'm pretty sure there was like a couple year wait before this was local, before Sky 2 was localized. So that
That
would
would have
have been
been
awful.
rough.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. But
I would have hated having to wait for that one, honestly. It's like leaving off on like an anime cliffhanger, being like, all right, the next season will be out in 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Especially when you
But
get right into it.
now that we got the games, you can just like jump into them. So
Yes.
that's nice. How did you feel about the game overall?
I really liked it. Again, I realized the reason why I disliked it in the beginning was entirely the way I was playing it, not
Mm-hmm.
the game. I wasn't on the game. That was because of life stuff and all that sort of stuff. So I really thought about it and I really sat down, especially after the stream where I beat it. Because I beat it on stream and then went right into the second game for a little bit and then I got off stream. I
Mm-hmm.
really thought about it, wrote down kind of my thoughts of it, and I think it was really, really good. And I like that it connects into the second game with that cliffhanger because of how much like the first game is world building and then has a very like, oh my fucking God, this just happened ending. And then the second game is just like, now it's just like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I like that pacing. I liked that I got to try the characters that kind of came in and out of your party all throughout first chapter to figure out who I liked mechanically. I
Mm-hmm.
kept messing around with like their different magic. I kept messing around with who like that. And then by the end, I had obviously my favorites and I went through with my favorites and stuff. Like overall, I think this is a really, really, really good game. The mechanics are great. The music is great. The art style is great. The characters are all fantastic. Like Olivier's creepiness aside, uh people like that kind of a character. So like, you know what? He's not my cup of tea, but he's I guess somebody's cup of tea. He wants to be somebody's cup of tea.
Polly's like, yo,
But
that tea, not about it.
yeah, I'm not about that tea at all. But like also a lot of people weren't about agate and I really liked agate. Like I like that kind of character. So like so it allows you to like kind of have your own favorites because they have so many different personality types and so many different characters. Like, you know, you got the child genius, you've got the princess in disguise, you got the big Goku kind of character. Like there's
The
you
big,
got the creepy
the big
bard
broody
guy, you've
character,
got the
yes.
sadist whip lady girl, whatever. Like who drinks a lot. Or
Yeah, the alcoholism was definitely something I'm like, but I don't know.
yeah, again, like there were things in it where it's just like okay, but it's like it was more like that's not my cup of tea. It wasn't like a knock at the game, in my opinion. And like, oh, one thing is, I thought so. I thought going into this game we'd have like an overworld because I just assume in JRPGs, especially older ones, you have that overworld. But you don't have that with Sky. You just kind of go like from place to place to place and it all kind of connected, right? I actually really like that. I really like that mechanic. It very much proved that you don't need an overworld in every JRPG for it to be like, you know, like to still have that exploration and stuff like that. And so and with the side quests you really did get to have more of that exploration because it
Hmm.
did send you back to certain areas for certain bosses and all that sort of stuff. So got you to those areas more and everything felt relevant. Like there wasn't anything that really felt like, oh, this town wasn't relevant or going to this place wasn't really, everything was like relevant. It was all connected and stuff. So yeah, I think it was a really good game. I definitely would give this a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. the tiny little gripes that I might have with it, honestly, there's very little that I have that would be fair to judge for a PSP game. So it's like, I don't know.
Or a PSP game. Shots fired.
Well, like back then, like PSP was very limited. Okay.
Shots fired. Wow.
But the funny thing is I say for PSP game, but honestly, the PSP was able to hold quite a bit considering it had like Crisis Core entirely on it, and like Birth by Sleep, and those are big games. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
Dissidia. There's
there was a lot of great games
Breath
for
of
the
Fire
PSP.
3 got ported onto there.
Oh, a lot of games got ported onto there.
I was gonna say the remakes of
Or
Tactics
the remakes,
Ogre
yeah.
and Final Fantasy Tactics, Star
Yeah.
Oceans. Yeah, there's tons of stuff on there.
It did really push the PSP, and I like games in their time that really push the system. Like, oh, what's a good example of
Final
something I
Fantasy
played?
10 on the PS1 or
Is
PS2
that?
rather.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 10 on the PS2. Even Final Fantasy 9 on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you could have squeezed anything else out of the PS1 at that point with that game. I really like games that really push the limit of the console that they're on. And like, this is another one, like, especially this is another one where it had a lot in it for what it was. Like, especially even with the graphical style they went with, like the 2.5D sort of look to everything. It had a lot. It did have a lot. So like I solidly like this game. How about you?
Solid 8.5. I
See,
think.
I was between 8 and 9, so I think that's
Yeah,
the easiest.
solid 8.5.
Yeah, go right in the middle.
There's little things I don't like. Also, P-Stone does raise a great point that I'm gonna bring up next in the next stream. I'm very excited about that. That's one of my first.
Yeah,
things
we're definitely
very,
gonna
very
comment on what
that.
P-Stone's saying in chat there in the second episode.
But yeah, like I had a love-hate relationship with the timed side quests as well as like the fetch quests that sometimes you had to do. I thought little things like the chest messages were hilarious, like the treasure chest
Oh, we didn't
messages.
even talk about that. Yes, that was like one of my favorite parts of this freaking game.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like if you talk to a treasure chest after you loot it, it has like random messages that they send you, that they give you and stuff like that.
So funny.
Those are really, really, really good. I think the cliffhanger was very well done, but I don't like when things end on cliffhangers, which is funny because like one of my favorite games of all time is Golden Sun.
I was gonna say Golden Sun does because I literally referenced that one.
But I think the reason. So here's the reasoning, and this isn't fair, but I think because I thought Sky 2 was a better game than Sky 1, it kind of took away from it a little bit because it's like, okay, there could have been more here. Whereas like I have the opposite opinion with Golden Sun. I think Golden Sun 1 is the better game. So
fair. You do
like,
find the first
that is why I'm like obviously when you look at a game that came out afterwards, like it's gonna be better in the sense of like you're gonna have more things, but I enjoyed playing Sky second chapter more than first chapter, so like it took away from it a little bit because I was like, this feels like it should just be one thing, so like leaving it off on a cliffhanger felt a little bad, but also like the cliffhanger was so good that I can't really, like, I'm nitpicking. I'm very much nitpicking. But yeah, no.
And I think Golden Sun 1 can stand on its, like, even though it still leaves off at a cliffhanger, it still was there was still a lot that was built in the game. Whereas first chapter with Trails in the Sky, while it had a lot of world building, a lot of the like really like stuff it starts to happen in the second game. So I could definitely see why. Because like the Golden Sun 1 can kind of stand on its own, even if it does fall on a cliffhanger, because there's a lot in Golden Sun 1 that was already like fleshed out. A lot of character development, a lot of like like storyline, a lot of
Hmm.
plot things. Like you knew who the bad guys were going to be by the end of it, yada yada yada, right? While you still kind of have that with like Trails of the Sky first chapter, you get more development and stuff in the second game in terms of the storyline and less of the world building.
I think it's, yeah, I think that's kind of like, I
Where
think
you already kind of had that in the first game, but then with Golden Sun 2, you're now with a different party. So like if you weren't like super jiving with that party, the first one definitely is going to feel better because the first party was really OP Golden Sun.
I think the
Like
other thing is
Isaac
like,
and Mia, like
I think you make a very good point of like with Golden Sun, it was the case where with the pacing of Golden Sun 1, it did feel more like a standalone game because
mhm,
it was like there was less world building and more of like
yes.
we're going through and there's an objective, this is what we're doing. Whereas like with Sky 1, you kind of had a feeling of what you were supposed to be doing, but there was a lot more. You could tell that that game was setting the scene for something much bigger.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
why it felt less standalone than Golden Sun. But
Yeah.
I can, yeah,
Where
that's,
like I would say if you play this game, you have to play the second game. Where Golden Sun 1, I mean,
you
it still
should
leads
play
off
the
on a
second
you should
game.
play the second game, but you could even just leave it on the first one too. Yeah. Because you still had quite a bit of development and stuff like that in it. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the difference. And I think that's why Golden Sun can
Sure.
hang at least on its own. Whereas Trails in the Sky first chapter, you really have to play the second one. Like you can't like there's just no you don't get enough in the first game to like you need more. You need more. And that's why they
The
have
second
the
one is
second
really
one.
good. It's
Where
funny because the more that I'll save this for tomorrow, or not tomorrow, for the next one.
But yeah, so you give it 8.5. I was between 8 and 9. So yeah, I think right in the middle 8.5. I think we're both right
Yeah,
aligned with that.
that's pretty. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was fun.
Yeah,
This
oh my
was
goodness.
good. I
This is
think.
why I wanted us to separate the two of them because when I started, like, one, just to give me a little bit more time, that was part of it. But
Mhm,
it was also two, it was like, I feel like there's just so much between the two games that we could talk about because
mhm.
the second, like, our second podcast episode of this, I know we're going to talk a lot about the plot.
Oh,
We're going to talk a
I
lot about
think
the
we're
plot.
only going to talk about the plot because the
Exactly,
game
because we won't
doesn't
have to go through the
change.
mechanics,
I was gonna say the
except for maybe
mechanics
a
don't
few
change a
things.
ton from Sky 1 to Sky 2. If we were
Mhm.
doing Sky 3, I would think we'd have quite a bit more to talk about. But
Yeah,
from
there's
Sky
another
1 to
character
Sky
we could
2, they
talk
don't change
about in
much.
the second one, and like, yeah, so like we'll have other thing we will be thing, but this one was great to be important because we could like talk about go into more detail about the mechanics. I could
Mhm.
explain rock math now that I've figured it out. We were gonna have this where I would explain what I thought it was, and KJ would have to just sit there sipping on the water bottle and not say anything, and then the rest of chat can't say anything, and then we would go into second chapter, and then he would actually explain it if I didn't figure it out by then. But no, I figured it out. So that's why we had me explain it.
I'm glad you figured it out.
Oh, and my water bottle is a duck.
Oh, it's a duck. Okay,
It's
that's
a
what it
duck.
is. I could not tell
It's a
what it
little
was. Um,
it's a little duck.
but yeah, no, I definitely think that it'll be really interesting. I do agree. We'll be talking a lot about plot
Yeah, and then I
in
that
Sky 2.
and it's gonna be equally probably a few hours.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Okay, so I
lot.
think we can wrap this up then. Let's
Yeah. All right.
so
So yeah, the next game we're gonna be reviewing is Trails in the Sky second chapter. And that will actually be on Tuesday at I think I'm gonna say 8 p.m. Eastern, just because it gives you a little bit more time after your workday too,
oh yeah, that's fine.
um, to straighten out and everything. So we'll say Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time here on YouTube. We're gonna keep going for the next little bit of just streaming the podcast episodes on YouTube. KJ is gonna teach me how to host it. Probably not for the next one, but
No, I
for
can
the
do
one
that.
after that. But yeah, our next episode will be literally in a few days. So, for the second chapter, where we will be continuing the Trails of the Sky, and by then I'll definitely be done it. Like, there's no question. I'm not going to be not done that game
Fingers
by then.
crossed.
So. Don't do that. Not fingers crossed.
It'll depend. Just go
Unless
live.
I really struggle like with
Just
end
go
boss.
live when I usually would, because I'm not going to be live because I'm going to be at Fan
Well, I'm
Expo.
already going to be earlier.
Oh, okay.
I already said I was going to go live at least at 10, 11 a.m.
What? We've got chapter. So you said you're in chapter 6.
I'm almost done chapter 6,
Where
which
in
I
chapter
hope
6
to finish tomorrow. I got. Are we recording this anywhere?
I mean,
turn it off.
Actually, that's a good point.
I was
that's
like,
a very good point. I was about
that we don't have to edit too much of like Spotify.
Oh,
like,
I wasn't planning on editing this. This is just going. This is a
VOD.
VOD.
Okay, yeah.
This is just going.
We can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to beat it because I'll also be playing it tomorrow night before Saturday.
That's just like people that are listening to the podcast on the like on all of the video things. I was like, crap, I don't know where to cut this, so I just cut it randomly. So, that's gonna just drop somewhere. We should probably work on that, but it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're learning. And I think it was fun to hear on YouTube.
Yeah, no, this worked out. Thank you everybody for coming out. Do appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for all the I see the little likes there. Thank you for all the likes and thumbs up on the video as we were watching and hanging out with chat and everything with us and stuff like that. It was really cool of you guys because I mean we're both Twitch streamers, so it is a little weird to be on a different platform streaming, but this is kind of where we host everything, and putting your little thumbs up even on the video as you're watching it right now is a big help.
It just made sense to have this here too.
Yeah, it did. I think it was like I just never suggested it before because neither one of us had done a YouTube stream.
It's fine. It's easy.
So I think going forward this will be a nice spot. Okay, Anna, what the heck is that face? Like, why is YouTube emote so weird?
I don't even see that emote.
Wait, you don't see that face?
No, appreciate that, Rob.
Oh, I guess because it's a better TTV emote. I don't know. That's
what
weird.
are those? I don't see what he's doing.
I don't. Oh, you don't see the. Okay.
No. Oh, what is that one? Okay, I see the one that P-Stone just used. Been listening to you guys while I've been cleaning. Yo, Grips, much appreciated.
I just print screened it so I'll be able to show you what the emotes, what they look like.
I see your point. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think we can just about wrap up here. So like, yeah, we'll be back on here on Tuesday to cover. You have 2 streams to do. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and 8 p.m. just gives me a little bit of buffer, and like Tuesday, I'll have already beaten Trails, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll be back on here on Tuesday. So it feels weird we can't raid out.
Oh, there's no raids on YouTube?
Well, I think you have to be YouTube partner to raid out.
Oh.
So we'll get there eventually. We'll be able to raid out eventually.
If we keep streaming here and keep posting things, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, everybody, so thank you, and we'll catch y'all on the next one, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. And yeah, see you on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Trails in the Sky second chapter, aka Emotional Damage. That's all I'm going to say. It's like 90% of
something like that.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.